We're back. We're here. Finally, KSL has returned. It's been months. And we're going to be doing the first day here of the qualifiers. I'm Tasis. Joined with me is No Regret. Artosis is over in Rush right now, playing in Corrupted Cup. We wish him the best of luck. Today we have a long and epic amount of matches.
We do.
We are going to sort out which players are going to be qualifying. And if you're just now tuning in, welcome. I would recommend you just stay with us all day.
Yeah.
Hang out with us.
I mean, even though it's probably going to be like 12 to 12 for them.
It probably will be. It's going to be a marathon cast.
I mean, it's a Saturday, so, you know, what else you got to do?
What else are you going to do, man?
Yeah.
You're not working. Going into this, there probably will be some mismatches, right? Because, you know, obviously the KSL qualifiers are so big. There's so many players. We will probably see some really interesting games. If you're a player who is trying to learn and you're experiencing a lot of weird stuff on the ladder, well, this is the moment you're really going to see that weird stuff. And the stuff that you don't normally see in pro games, but you still lose to them.
Right. I mean, if you've determined that the other person is way better than you, usually the best way is to try and, you know, trick them or take something off of them. Usually you don't just like, I'm going to fight this person in a straight-up game.
Right.
Like, that's just a bad idea. Like, you're playing Rain. Oh, yeah, I'll just macro. No. No, you won't.
And so I do like casting StarCraft games of all different skill sets. And I think that one of the things that's going to be fun today is, especially in some of our mismatches, what exactly is a underdog going to do to try to cheese, right?
Right.
I mean, we've all been in ELO hell before where maybe you're not where you're supposed to be, but everybody's doing these kind of weird, crazy strats. I know last time I did the KSL qualifiers, we had a lot of this where it's like, oh, I have seen this. It's at a certain rating. It's certainly not what pros are doing. And again, we'll get to see if we have any underdogs that begin to qualify. The competition in StarCraft 1 is fierce out here.
Right.
Let's go ahead and show you guys the schedule. But, you know, we'll see which players can qualify, if we get any cool old school names, or we have some new young blood coming in here. Today, it's going to be nothing but best of threes. It's single elimination. Match 1 is Overwatch. Match 2 is Blockchain. And match 3 is Circuit Breakers. So, important thing to note here, Overwatch, a one-on-one map. So there's certainly, especially in StarCraft 1, a lot of cheesy stuff you can do in a one-on-one map. A lot of very punishing things. Blockchain is our most complex map to play on. It's, I guess, what you could call a pseudo-island map. And we'll be talking about that more and more when we get into game. And then the final map is going to be Circuit Breakers, which is a 4-player macro map. So if you're going to play a full 3-game series here, you really have to have the
full
ability
repertoire, you know?
Yeah, you need to have everything. So it's not a situation where it's just one-on-one maps or it's just generic 4-player maps with a cheese spot in the middle of the map. So we should have to see a wide range of play coming into this.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, usually lets the better player win overall.
Yeah.
Like, you can take maps on certain maps if you do cheeses, but honestly, taking a full set against someone who's better than you is really hard, especially when there's so much diversity.
Right. And we're going to see, especially on Blockchain, I'm curious, because Blockchain is actually a very difficult map to play on. If you're like new to StarCraft, that's probably, I guess out of all the maps in the pool, probably the hardest one.
It has the most complex mechanics to understand, I think.
Yeah, and so on that map, you do have the ability to lock off portions of the map or open them up. And it's something I want to focus on a little bit more when we get in game, because I could try to explain it, but
it's easier with the visual.
It's easy when you see it, but basically, if you destroy one structure, then you can lock it off. If you destroy the eggs that are blocking it, then you've opened it up.
Right.
And there's so many variables that come into play here in the different matchups because of that. So
even like expansions, which expansion you take versus which matchup, locations, cross positions different than close. Like there's just tons of things.
Unit compositions obviously very different there as well. Overwatch is a great map to come into this on, but again, we want to watch out for anything crazy. Let's say it's a PVT, a gas steal is going to be a real threat here. We also will have these players, since this is done on Battle.net, we might not see the normal IDs of the players that are playing. So we're going to be doing our best to try to find if this ID is, in fact, a player that
if it corresponds with the pro gamer.
Corresponds with the pro gamer ID, basically, because nobody on Battle.net uses the real ID. Nobody.
It's true.
So, you know, it's like your stage name. That might not be what's going on. So when we're casting the games here today, if it is, you know, an unknown player, we'll probably just be referencing the ID. If it's a known player, then we will be using
their known ID.
The known ID.
Yeah.
So
Assuming we know it.
which we should be able to get before the games start here. But just one other thing to kind of point out there in case, and it's probably something we're going to have to bring up throughout the day, since it's going to be a pretty long cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
like
it's
5 hours in. I don't think the people there are going to be the same from the beginning.
probably not.
Yeah.
People probably coming in and out and joining us throughout the day. If you are watching, I'm sure there's a lot of friends of yours that might not know that this is back on. Again, we are just at the very beginnings here of KSL, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really happy to see that StarCraft 1 is back. The viewership has been crazy.
And if you're a StarCraft 2 player, you've got me, right? We're in it together.
You've got no regret over here.
I hope you dissect it, okay?
we were having a cram session over at my place. I think when we actually go into the game, we're probably going to be switching roles here more. I think you're going to be doing a little bit more hosting. I'll be doing more analysis.
Well, I hope I can bring like questions that StarCraft 2 people will have, because there's going to be a ton of StarCraft 2 people in chat and watching, and I have lots of questions as well. So we'll just play it by ear, see how it goes, and I'll ask as many questions as I have. Yeah,
it's funny because StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2 are more similar to each other than they are to anything else.
Yeah.
But they're still very different.
So different, yeah.
I think we're actually ready to go into game 1. All right. Now, our two players here, Sukarat, who I would say is the underdog here, is going up against Stardust, and this Stardust.
Yeah, this is the StarCraft 2
fans. This is actually Stardust, also known as Cheese Dust.
So if you're a StarCraft 2 player, you actually might be more familiar with him than a Brood War player would be. I believe he's had a more decorated StarCraft 2 career than his Brood War career.
So basically, everybody who is anything in StarCraft 2 in Korea started on StarCraft 1. So as StarCraft Remastered came out, a lot of players, for instance, Stardust wasn't having a ton of success in the more recent years of StarCraft 2. So it looks like he's trying out over here. And let's look forward to seeing how he does here. And by the way, in this matchup here, it's going to be a PBT.
I actually like this matchup one of the most. I like this matchup the most, I think.
I found this matchup to be the most. I get the most enthralled into it. it's so the late game can become so epic.
Yeah,
it's so over the top.
The game-deciding recalls and stasis is just it's really epic to watch.
The Terran trying to navigate and juke and jive with a stronger army to ultimately try to corner the Protoss. The Protoss trying to expand everywhere.
Yeah.
And gobble up the map as if it was a Zerg.
Yeah, it feels like they both have dynamic roles that they can actually not be influenced too heavily by each other, if that makes sense.
Well, they're also, it's like the races don't operate like that in any of the other matchups.
Right.
I mean, we've sort of seen mech play in StarCraft 2, but it's not the same type of incredibly powerful play that you see in StarCraft 1. I mean, a maxed out mech army in StarCraft 1 is basically the strongest thing in RTS. So, a couple things to point out right away. Stardust did not opt for any cheeky gas steal.
Yeah.
Gas steal is very strong in this matchup. He didn't opt to make gateways in the main. To be honest, I don't think that's a very good move at the highest level.
It would be really weird to do that, too, if you knew you were the favorite. Like, I don't know if he is, because we didn't have much information on the other person, but if you thought you were the favorite, it'd be really weird if you, like, proxied or gas stole or just whatever to put yourself behind.
So what we're seeing here from Terran, and this is the more common way to play now, is to try to get a command center up very quickly. Now, there's CC first, there's barracks into CC, and then there's, I think what's been more typical throughout most of the history of StarCraft 1, but it's less popular in the meta now, which is to, get some Marines and a tank and a Vulture out and then expand behind that.
Right. So this was Rax expand without a gas.
Now, there are some ways that this can be punished on the Protoss's end of things. But a lot of times, the more proper way to play is to try to simply expand yourself and match them and kind of go into a macro race here.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't seen a Nexus yet. There's also no bunker. I'm not...
I think the bunker is going to eventually come here.
Yeah,
I mean, it basically has to, right?
That's nice. He's blocking the Marine with the SUV. I mean, the Zealot can't go up there, but he could pressure this command center. Yeah,
this is something he's got to watch out for. Now, the SUV has a high number of hit points, so it's kind of hard to actually get a kill on that. Right. And even though on paper a Zealot should be 2 Marines, when you're microing them really, really well, especially as well as Sukarat is, then yeah.
Also, this SUV is like the most annoying thing ever if you're this Zealot.
So it wasn't common in the past to have a Zealot right away, but it seems like people have concluded that for micro purposes, having a Zealot with the Dragoon is really strong, and you can get out in front of this bunker, and that's going to be the first Marine going down.
Yeah, SCV pull really good here. If this SCV pull didn't happen, he could just lose all of his Marines.
Right,
now that the bunker's up, I don't see this being broken.
So we don't have Stardust with a Nexus yet.
Yeah, that's interesting. He's getting range.
What he's probably going to do, oh my god, he needs to move that. So what he's probably going to do is get okay, he beat me to it. Get a Nexus now, and then have the Dragoons just try to hit the bunker and try to buy time. But
took quite a bit of damage on his goon.
Yeah, I think he should be okay. It's actually harder than it looks to make sure the Dragoon is at the right distance with the bunker. It's like a very narrow amount of space where they can fire when the Dragoon rain finishes.
Yeah, range not finished yet, so he's okay, now it's finished.
Yeah, you can see he's trying to inch that forward. And unfortunately, that one's not actually targeting. He needs to click that on the bunker.
He's attacking our racks right now.
They're crossing the beams.
It's going to be quite a while before he can actually push this back. Like, there's no tech lab, or machine shop, rather.
Yeah, well, what you're basically doing at this moment is you're saying, all right, I can at least damage the bunker, and that'll force Marines, SCVs to repair this.
Right.
And then, you know, they're spending some minerals here. You basically need 1 SCV for every Dragoon that's there. The Protoss wants to go up to about 4 Dragoons because 4 Dragoons can snipe a tank. And so there's oftentimes this little mini game that happens where the Terran is trying to draw the bunkers in, the Dragoons into the bunker.
Right.
And run the tank away without it being hit. And the Protoss is trying to dive onto the tank and kill it with each Dragoon only firing twice.
So he's upgrading siege mode, and you said.
Oh, was he?
He is upgrading siege mode. You said that your natural progression taking would be like a quicker third because it's really hard to push out when you're going siege mode.
It's one of the options. If for how I play, which I guess isn't as important, but what I like to do is if I see siege mode, I go, okay, so he spent a lot on gas. He's not going to move out, right? When you see siege mode, you say, okay, you really can't attack me now. In the games I was showing you yesterday, I decided to try to take a third here. Oh, this is great play here.
This is a pretty big dive. It's also really hard to push someone who has siege mode as well, which is another reason why you would try to kind of get an economic advantage. Because it's really hard to break siege tanks and bunkers. It just doesn't make any sense.
He needs to move that Dragoon. Okay, so what he's actually going to go for is Reaver drop. Now, this is another very active way to play the game. And it forces the Terran to defend even further. But it will mean that the third base is going to be later for Protoss. Now, there's a lot of different theories that go on as far as how exactly do you want to try to handle this when you can't touch the Terran. Because one thing to remember is that the Protoss player, besides the siege mode, does not know the intentions of the Terran. Now, we do. We see that there is an armory here. We see that that means whenever you see an armory, that means that the Terran is going for a much longer game. He wants to get upgrades.
Yeah.
If we had seen, let's say, 4 factories thrown down here, 5 factories thrown down, no armory, anything like that, then we know, okay, he's going to attack. But Protoss doesn't know. And each style requires very different responses. And this is one of the reasons why the Reaver is so popular, is because if the player is playing a macro game, then the Reaver can try to come in there and do some damage. If the Terran is playing for a push game, then the Reaver can be used to try to fight the push.
It also gives you vision on what's going on. Like if you
you're inadvertently scouting this anyways. Because when you see the Goliath, then you know it's an armory, then you know, okay.
Right. Looks like, Stardust taking a third behind this. I like this a lot. Makes sense. I mean, just strategically makes sense.
Yeah. And so he's going to see the Goliath and immediately turn around.
Yeah. Goliaths are pretty scary.
Yeah. I mean, and shuttles are not nimble units. That's why shuttle speed can sometimes be so valuable to get here. So he sees the Goliaths, and you notice this response is very logical. Like, he gets a Citadel. He'll probably be getting a Stargate here, and we'll probably see this go into an Arbiter attack. Now, here comes the Observer. Really, really good Terran players will basically know all the timings for this and be ready to shoot this down.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Really good play here. This Terran player is really good.
Yeah.
So we've got the Dragoons up over here. Now, a lot of times for the Protoss, what you're trying to watch for is just when did they get all their factories. I'm sorry, there should be a third CC here, is there not?
I don't see.
Because if there's not, then this is a certain type of push. Because that's actually pretty quick to have that many factories. So this is actually a pretty cool style of player. If we don't have a third CC, and I'm just not seeing it. Our observer hasn't really gone over the Terran main that much.
Looks like the way
this is going to be a timing attack with +1.
The way Stardust is playing feels like he knows it's a timing attack too. Like he's sitting on the other side of a bridge.
Well, you know what it is. The observers saw the 5 factories.
Right.
So he went, whoa. And so let's see if he can tech in Arbiters. He might actually just tech into Zealot legs. Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's going to do. He realizes, okay, Arbiters are not going to come into the game and be a factor for a little while. So he wants to try to take this with Shuttle, Zealot, Dragoon, and with the Reaver, of course, as well, and the Shuttle.
Yeah, it also positioning is really important. Like he's positioned on opposite sides of ramps, making it really hard for the push to just come out and kill him. Trying to contest just that happening. I mean, this is actually a really big move out.
Yeah, it's also possible as this move out comes that he tries to. Are these SCVs just going to join up with the army? It looks like they are. Okay, I thought. Yeah. Okay, so this is a serious push.
Yeah.
What's most important, and you have a lot of games that follow like sort of the classical openings, and then after the skirmishes happen, then we sort of have to, as the dust settles, figure out where the players are at. This push is very scary, and Terran's very, very serious about setting up turrets and having a very good push. Now, there's no vultures with this, so the natural enemy to this is speed zealots coming in here. Or there are no vultures, right? I don't think.
Didn't see any, no.
Yeah,
it's like mostly Goliath tank here.
Yeah.
I think the Reaver is pretty important, too.
The Reaver is essential here.
Yeah.
So Zealot legs is done. Notice Protoss is up here on the high ground. Now,
that was a fast siege.
Now here's the thing: he sieges up. Do you want to attack in here? Stardust says yes, but I'm not sure about this. Actually, I do like this unload over here, dropping the Reaver over here, and the Zealots hitting from this side. And this is just a great attack here.
Yeah, I guess it's better to attack out here than. Well, I kind of wish you would try.
Okay, I almost feel like I think
siege,
Stardust sort of didn't quite control this correctly. It's not the end of the world because I don't think this push can get much further along.
Yeah, only 2 tanks remaining. It's going to be really hard for him to actually break Stardust.
Right.
Which I think is the big goal overall anyways, because he pulled SCVs with this.
Well,
there's no third.
There's not a healthy future here.
Yeah, so this has to kill Stardust almost.
Right. And this is, by the way, a very unusual push from Terran. It's not one of the common pushes that we see. I think a part of the idea of this push is that if you can kill off, if they see the Goliaths and you scan and get the observers, the Protoss might try to tech into Arbiters and then just get rolled over. Or if the Protoss techs into carriers,
yeah, right.
then this rush can kill it. But Stardust really had a very good sense of how to approach this game. And,
he had a very good read, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, what was most important, I think, it's subtle, but I think the real game-winning move here was that he actually saw the 5 factories.
Yeah.
And thought, all right, that's just too soon.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to have to, get a serious army over here.
If the Goliaths pushed it back and he wasn't sure if there's a third base, I think your response could be even, it could be very different and it could kill you. If you weren't 100% sure.
Right. And, the Terran has no other choice but to try to attack out. The problem is the second attack is almost always doomed.
It's even worse than the first.
It's worse than the first because the initial tank count was destroyed. And Goliaths are, simply put, not good against Zealots and Dragoons.
Yeah.
And
I
don't know.
That is GG.
I don't know what happened.
Oh.
What? Oh, all right, we're already in game 2.
Well,
you know what I think this is? That there might be a delay or something, so they're able to just go in because that should be physically impossible. What we just saw there. So, this is blockchain.
Yep. Talked quite a lot about blockchain.
Okay, so let's talk about blockchain in this matchup. This is a tricky map for the Terran. It's probably a little bit better if you're crossbots.
Yeah. Further away from your opponent.
But it's not an ideal map, TVP. Your third base is probably going to be one of these island locations. And Protoss function in certain aspects. They function a little bit better on islands. Not always. I think if you have pure island maps, I think TVP is actually kind of a toss-up.
Yeah.
Zerg is the one that has. And when I say pure island, I mean you start out with just one base and you're on an island. These are very old maps like Dire Straits, which we just don't use anymore because it's unfair to Zerg.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got to remember a few key things about Protoss. Reaver shuttle is strong early on, and Reaver is actually just very popular in the meta, even if it's not an island map, like we saw in Game 1. And then carriers.
Right.
Carriers are great on island maps, and it's hard because for the Terran, because the true counter to the carrier is masked Goliath.
Right.
But carriers can abuse high grounds. They can abuse ridges.
Yeah, when someone is really good at using carriers, it looks unfair.
It's insane. It's very hard to pull off. But yeah, when you get people who are crazy good at it, but also recall is strong on island maps. But we have seen some Terrans that will play around this. They'll try to focus on pushes, try to focus on some cheeses even.
So I mean, we saw a 2-base timing off this Terran player last game, so it's possible that he does it again. But he is opening a different way this game. He's opening without the Rax command center.
Yeah, he's opening with gas here.
So most likely factory.
So there's a couple options when you see gas taken. The two main lines are you went for gas into one factory or gas into two factory. And it is... The two factory basically means that they're going to be much, much more aggressive, but they're not necessarily as invested in the late game. So if a Protoss can hold that off, it's not easy. They have to really be ready. But if they actually manage to hold off that attack, they're in good shape. There's also some weird stuff you see sometimes like bio used. It probably won't have it, but just in case.
That'd be sick if this went from 2-base mech, like a mech timing into a 2-base bio timing. It's not a thing.
And so this is a good wall in here. He's going to get his Marine out. Now, with this scout, the probe can't confirm how many SCVs are mining gas, and that's important because, as you can see, there are actually 3 SCVs still mining.
Yeah.
Which tells us it's either going to be a starport
or a second factory.
Or a second factory, and I think that's a second factory over there.
We don't know yet.
We don't have a shot of it because our observer's not looking in the right.
I hope it's a starport, though. We're going to go.
This is the only thing that we need to see, and we're not getting on camera here.
Yeah. I think the assumption would be 2-factor. It makes the most sense.
Well, keep in mind there's some island features on this map, so sometimes going into starport can mute the strength of Reaver.
Is there anything to deal with the Goon harass? I guess so.
Well, if you've got a ramp, you're usually a little bit better off against Dragoon harass.
Oh, yeah.
Harass. Okay, he actually got a CC, but he's still mining.
And he's not using anything on the machine shop. There is another building in the bottom middle. I don't know what that is.
I'm not sure. Well, I mean, if he's got a CC, he's going to do an expand. You just usually see them take SCVs off of that.
Right. Well, I mean,
so I think we're going to have a very specific type of build coming in here, and I don't know what that's going to be, but
it's cool. I mean, it might be his own flavor of TVP, which is what it seems like he's not afraid to do.
Okay, so he's got the tank out. It's siege mode again here.
Yeah, what's that building? Starport.
Okay, so there was a starport thrown down there.
Yeah, that makes sense because he's mining just too much gas.
Yeah, he's just getting so much gas. It's not efficient usually, and the Terran openings are very fine-tuned. Now the starport is not exactly a shocker. Okay, I mean one thing about the starport is okay. First of all, you have the opportunity to use dropship harass, but you can also get a wraith.
Yeah. And
the wraith can fight the shuttle and the Reaver.
Yeah, it's nice to actually push back shuttles with wraiths. They're basically just hard countered. Like there's
right.
Wraiths are pretty good against shuttles.
So he's got the 2 siege tanks here on the high ground. He's going to be making vultures here.
Oh, it might be vulture drop. Oh no, okay, it's a machine shop.
Okay, it's a drop ship.
Yeah.
So
this makes sense.
This is not surprising.
Yeah.
But this is also very common on this map, starport opening. And we're seeing Stardust open with a pretty passive play here. He's so far we don't see any Reavers coming here. He's going to go 3 gateway Dragoon Observer. We also see an armory. It's like underneath the mini map here.
Right.
So the armory down there again signals to us that Terran most likely is going to go for a long game.
Yeah, it looks like he's probably going to do some vulture harass with the dropship.
The problem with dropship play, though, is it really does act like a double-edged sword. You know.
Yeah.
If they shut the dropship down.
Yeah. Then you're just kind of.
You're just. Now, vulture harass is very dangerous, though. I mean, vultures are much quicker. The AI pathing is way better.
What do you think
this is
of
going to be tank vulture coming here.
I'm very interested where he's going to put the siege tank. Maybe on the other side of the.
He might even try to put it just in the main.
Huh. It feels really committed. Like he feels clunky because once you use a siege tank, you can't really get it out.
Well, I mean,
okay.
Terran's in pretty good shape. I mean, Protoss is in pretty good shape as far as what he has here, but we got to see how this engagement actually goes down. He's going to drop these vultures, but it seems like Protoss is just sort of immediately ready.
Yeah, like where's this tank going?
Well, I guess he wants to try to put it over.
Can't tell if he dropped it. Okay, he did drop it.
So he drops this here, and you could target down probes. I don't know how many probes have been killed here. But
3 by the looks of it?
Now, this would have been worse had the Dragoons actually gotten the dropship. Sometimes you'll see players actually just go for the dropship because it's like,
right,
how much have you actually lost now?
Yeah.
You know? I am liking this right now for Stardust.
Yeah, this feels.
He's getting his third base.
I mean, that was pretty much the most efficient it could have been. He got a siege tank for 4 workers, whatever it was.
When they drop you, you're gonna lose a probe or 2.
Yeah.
I mean, the probes just die too fast to both siege tank shots and vulture shots. 2 vulture shots kill a probe.
Right.
So 2 vultures, 1 shot a probe. And so now we have the science facility. So this is clearly a nod towards super late game. Do we have a third CC?
I have to imagine we do, but I have not seen it.
I feel like we're occasionally just going over the parts that we need to see most we don't have.
Maybe he does not have a third CC.
The one building we haven't seen is actually this one that's
on the
to the right.
Yeah.
That could be a CC or maybe not.
Could be a depot.
Because this Terran's already kind of exposed himself as somebody who's willing to do very obscure 2-base attacks.
Yeah. Now that would be really
like
obscure.
This could be an attack where he just gets a science vessel and then pushes out, you know?
We almost see. I think that might actually be a barracks, which
it could be.
I thought I saw a barracks leg.
This is the funny thing is I feel like
it's a barracks.
Okay, so it's a barracks. So there's apparently no CC that we've found here, and it's just
he is building.
So yeah, okay. So all right, now we know what this is. Now that we've finally seen the entirety of the Terran base. So what this is it's another 2-base timing. He's going to have a science vessel. Now there's a lot you can do with a science vessel in these moments. I mean, you could get a really good D-matrix off in a fight, and there's nothing that the Protoss can do.
I mean, it also gives vision for Arbiter, and you also have EMPs. I mean, like there's a lot of utility.
You know, there's a lot of intention here with, like, for instance, where that science facility is at.
Right.
He puts that at the top because it's very likely an observer sees that. And to be honest, generally speaking, when you're Protoss, you see the science facility, you say, he's got a second armory. He's going for +2 attack, +1 armor. Yeah. And it's not that at all. And we know that because
You think Stardust knows that?
I don't know. We need to get another shot of his base. That's one of the only things that we can look for. Because when we see the shot of the base, then we're going to know. Now, he has a lot of gates here. He is getting an Arbiter, which the Arbiter will not be able to help out.
Yeah, I think the Arbiter's
much.
I think that's actually fine. I mean, that's probably what he wants, honestly.
Well, he's going to need to get it anyways.
Yeah.
But what's important to note is that this is a push that is comfortable with an Arbiter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The science vessel's there. You know, it's going to come out with some energy. We don't know if he went for recall or stasis. If he went for stasis, it's certainly better in this situation because recall isn't going to really do much against this.
Recall's a better late game upgrade.
Now, in the last game we had, he went tank Goliath and was just crushed by speed zealots. This is tank Vulture.
Right.
With just probably a small number of Goliaths. So this is actually a much stronger 2-base push. And it is later
nice,
here.
Nice scan. Basically sees everything. I mean, he should have all the information he needs to make the decision he wants with his push. I don't know when the plan is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Protoss is still searching for the third base.
One thing to note with this attack is that the dropship is incredibly important.
Right.
He knows he can drop that third base in the island location, and it's a headache for the Protoss to get over there and fight it. And that is where the push is going to be very strong.
He's getting anti-recall.
Yeah, he's actually, part of this is he's hoping that a recall is going to come out as the push comes in here, and it's going to be completely and totally owned.
Oh.
Okay,
that's bad.
That's bad.
That's
dude.
bad. Yeah.
That's really bad, dude. Ooh, I feel bad for the Terran.
Yeah, it feels like he's not really able to do much here now. The fourth base is being taken. He still doesn't have his third.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that the fourth is being taken. If the fourth is finished and taken, I think that it's going to be so hard.
Yeah, it's possible
to live through this. So here it is. It's again, this is a +1 timing attack build. That's when he's going to move out. That's what this Terran guy does. He's got a whole bunch of these like kind of wonky builds that are made to punish Protosses who are not completely and totally obsessively focused on exactly everything. We got +1.
That is a big army. I mean, this is proper all-in.
Yeah.
Like, if you lose this army, you're dead.
And there's a lot of Vultures here, which are very good against the Speed Zealots. The Vultures are very good at tanking. Oh, you got +2 attack. Wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a +2 attack timing build. I'm sorry.
Ooh, nice time siege.
Yeah,
this is a pretty big fight.
Okay, now see.
That was really efficient for the Terran.
Yeah,
I mean,
now Protoss needs to back up. And Protoss can at this moment of the game, they will ramp up and max out all of a sudden.
Right.
It's like there's an exponential difference in growth. Now remember, a Terran late game army is stronger than a Protoss late game army, but this Terran is not a +2 attack +1 armor Terran. It's a +2 attack Terran. So it's a so the siege tank shots are absolutely terrifying. The army, when it gets hit, it takes full damage like it normally would. Just like if it was an early game attack.
Yep.
So notice how methodical Terran is being during this push. And Protoss is being really patient. I mean, these guys are both playing really well.
I think they both have to be really patient here.
And this push is intended to basically get to the Terran when he's maxed out. Some Protosses will try to attack around here. And that's what we're seeing here. But he's ready to try to fight that off. Yeah. And we have a very late third. Very late third here for the Terran.
I mean, I'm a little surprised with the third, but I guess it makes sense. He's starting to mine out. Like,
well, he hasn't pushed out any. I mean, the thing is, like, he's got the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just that if this army dies, you know, like, what is that third going to do? And it's posturing aggressively as well.
One of the things you might want to go for as Protoss in this position is try to get, like, cannons and nexuses at the other two mains. Because they really, it's just this big death ball that they have coming out. Now, notice how Terran's pushed. I mean, this is really cool to watch. Sukarad is a really smart player. He's basically wedging his army in this middle area, because if the Protoss tries to fight that with like plus like 3/3 Protoss army, like they'll lose. Okay. And so here comes that recall that we've been waiting for.
Yeah, he does see it.
Now he's bringing his army back.
The main is actually pretty well defended.
Now, one thing, generally speaking, is if you're going to recall, you want to do it over workers, because the mines will kill everything.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was not efficient. There's no detection here, actually. Oh, and he's being attacked in the middle of the map at the same time.
Okay, I think Stardust might have bungled this game. This is pretty hard to do, to be honest.
Yeah, this gives the Terran player a lot of momentum to actually just
one of the mistakes that happened here is the recall would probably been more wisely done on the third.
Yeah.
A recall on the third is actually
now all the
dream, right? Because then Terran's still on 2 bases.
The way this Terran army is like posturing now is really scary, right? Like he's about to push the natural, and there's nothing that can really be stopped here.
Yeah.
You need counterattacks are not going to be very efficient. There's tons of mines here.
Right.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, this is going to not really do much. It's only a couple of goons.
One thing that the Terran did really well is he shot down the observers with the Goliaths as they came out with the science vessel. And sometimes you have the Protoss with just no detection.
Yeah.
EMP, by the way, on that Arbiter. Is he going to go try to sandwich this? This is getting a little bit scary.
Is there another, like, army to the left? Oh, yeah.
So if Terran wins this, a lot of this is going to come back to the fact that the recall in the third didn't happen. Because Terran's almost mined out at the natural.
Yeah. I mean, that was actually just the worst recall because all the units blew up and they didn't even take the SCVs.
Yeah, I think the idea was wrong. Normally what you want to do is when they have the +2 attack, +1 armor, which this recall, by the way, happened way later. You recall there and then they have to come back and try to defend it if it's good. Although it seems like Terrans are getting better and better at just booby trapping the main with mines.
Yeah, now the Terran player's in a great spot. If his third is up, there's pressure on the natural. I mean, there's nothing Protoss can really do to stop this.
Well, the thing is he's going to be able to kill the natural, but I don't know that Terran can actually push up here.
I mean, he can push down, can't he? Or he can sit here too.
Yeah, Protoss is going to sit back and just keep macroing up and try to make him come up into the main. Because the third base is pretty hard to even get to.
I think at this point you don't even need to kill the main though either. Like you can just pick off these fringe bases and there's nothing you can really be stopped here.
The only thing Protoss has going for him is that he has gateways set up here in this bottom right base. And with those gates there, it's like he's able to you know, it's just hard for Terran to push up ramps.
Yeah.
Ramps are like, you don't have this in StarCraft 2 like you do in StarCraft 1. Ramps are just like everything.
Yeah.
Like, now it looks like this should be the death blow here.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting up the ramp without any real difficulty here.
So,
this looks like it'll be the end. I mean, I don't see how you can stop this without just losing the game. Okay, big
okay,
recall.
that was a good recall there. That's exactly the play that Stardust needed to have. That was a really, 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 really good move.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's still losing his main. There's no contention here. I mean, there's nothing here.
Well, okay, I think Terran is probably still going to win, but I do want to be very realistic here.
Oh, another one?
If he can buy some more time, now this is a forgivable mistake
that's
because he's going to lose the Arbiter. If he could get a good recall with one of his Arbiters on top of that army that's outside of his base, maybe.
He's taking his base on the left side. I mean, this is pretty desperate.
Right.
I think even if he kills the army right now, his economy's not good enough.
Yeah, well, Stardust is barely hanging on there. It is GG, and so I guess we're just going to jump immediately into Game 3. Am I right?
That would be the assumption.
Look at that. I think the big mistake back there was that he needed to have a recall on the third.
Yeah.
Right? Because the push happened so slowly. It's very clear, like, okay, he knows, like, well, I got to get a third base eventually, right?
Right.
I'm going to kill something, but I need a third. So it's like, that's the moment that you recall.
I think also that if he didn't recall, or let's say instead of that recall, it was a stasis on the tanks or something, right?
Right.
Like because he engaged the army, but he really didn't have a better position.
It looks like what that is intended to do is that the vessel also can EMP an Arbiter.
Right.
And I mean, when you have that much of a Terran army, it's like pretty hard to actually snipe the vessel.
Yeah.
It's funny with both Terrans and Protosses, like Terrans, they lose a lot of vessels in fights, and Protosses lose a lot of Arbiters because there's so much micro going on.
Yeah, it just felt like he did both sides bad. Like he recalled in, lost the army, and then he attacked and lost that army. What he was trying to do, I think, was pull the Terran's attention down to his main base, and he's like, oh, you're not looking at your army. I'm going to do something with that.
I think the real trick is to recall just enough to kill the third.
No, that
and then the thing is, Terran will not get a third base, and then you just drag the game out. You will barely eke out a win.
What is that?
Wait, I'm so... Oh, okay. All right, Jake. I don't know if we've gotten to cast a game like this. This is a probability cheese.
Yeah.
So it's a 4-player map. It's a 4-player map, right?
Yep.
You can build barracks in either the center right or the center left. You cannot make buildings in the middle of the map.
Right.
Here, right? So the most typical...
this is just intelligent, though, right? Like, if you perceive yourself as the worst player here, you have a 66% chance of being right here.
Yes.
So I mean,
yeah. So basically,
you're gonna take a gamble. This would be it.
There's actually a very famous game using the same kind of probabilities in WCG. In Canada, it was Testy versus Smuffed, two incredibly famous top-tier players. And Smuffed opted to make it was a 3-player map. He opted to make gateways in the main of one of the mains.
Oh, yeah.
And it just happened to be
Testy's
main. Yeah. So, but this idea is a little bit more common here because the odds are even better, right?
Right.
50-50 is nowhere near as good as 66.
And it's also really hard to scout because it's a 4-player map.
And also players tend to not look for it. Also, Nexus First is common here. So, what we see happen here is the SCV. Now, unfortunately, it's not Nexus First, so this would be even stronger. But let's see. A lot of Protosses are getting a quick Zealot early on.
He's not.
I don't think he is. Yeah, because Dragoon range is coming out pretty quickly here. And
this is going to be really hard to defend.
Yeah. No, this is going to be really, really tough. The bunker comes down. The first Dragoon. I'm sorry, he got Dragoon range before he got the first Dragoon.
Yeah.
So he was actually going for a rush of his own. So this is just going to be. I think this is like actually impossible to stop. This was a really intelligent build order here.
Yeah, I mean, it is a gamble at 66%, but it makes a lot of sense strategically.
Yep.
Also, he's not a bad player. I mean, he actually
he's actually really good. He definitely has a specific style. He did opt to not have that kind of like super macro-esque style. Whoa, okay, hold on a second. We need to get that. All right, he's going to get Marines in the bunker. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, he has some Marines in the bunker. He's losing tons of probes now.
Well, he's repairing it.
But if the Goon goes down, I don't know how you defend this, though. Yeah,
right.
Goon goes down. Bunker should survive, even if it doesn't. I mean, these probes
He's
are
trying to spam it down, but, I mean...
oh, the bunker survives? Oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
that's it.
That's it. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah,
he's got two probes here.
What a bad way to go out if you're Stardust, though. Like, that's going to be crushing.
Well, I mean, this was a really intelligent move here. Also, I mean, it is worth pointing out, he did not get his Zealot first. He did not even get his first Dragoon out here.
Which isn't even a really bad call, though, on this map, right?
I mean,
like
Terrans
skipping a Zealot on this map is probably not a bad call.
Yeah. Well, sometimes players will, GG, sometimes you'll see players get a Zealot and then Dragoons out and try to fight the Terran as the Terran's trying to expand.
Right.
But not in that game. I forgot to put my jacket on. Gas, but oh well.
It's okay.
So in that series, I mean, that was a lot of very, very cool build orders that we saw back there. I mean, that was what do we have? We had in game 1 a really unique +1 attack Goliath tank timing attack. Right.
That was really well read, honestly.
That was very well read, right? Second game, we had this even wonkier +2 attack.
Tons of
Science
patience,
Vessel.
though. Like, didn't take his third. Didn't overextend. Waited for Stardust to make a move. Stardust made a move and then attacked.
Yeah, and then the recall didn't work. I think the recall was just in a bad spot. The idea of the recall was okay, but not in that location. And then we had in game 3
a gamble. I mean, it was a gamble.
Gamble. And I'll tell you what, there was a little bit of a gamble there from the Protoss, too. He skipped the first Dragoon. He got Dragoon range. He was probably going to throw down a second gateway, and he was hoping to just...
Do you think the bunker finishes before the first Dragoon gets out, though? I'm not sure.
Well, there's a lot more, I think, to it than just that. First of all, if you get Dragoon range very early, the Dragoons are so much better in the fights. It also depends on what kind of build the Terran were to do, right?
Right.
The different build orders require different bunker timings because the barracks finishes at a different moment.
Yep.
And so what's happening in a game like that is that he's expecting either A, Terran is going to be aggressive, but not like that, like a normal like factory opening where it's like, okay, Dragoons can actually fight.
Right.
Against a lot of factory openings, especially two-gate Goon.
Right.
That's just fine. You can kite that all day. If it's a certain types of expands, you can be totally caught off guard by the Dragoon rush and just get shot down. But that automatically loses to a Marine SCV rush because you've neglected getting a Zealot. You've neglected getting the Dragoon. You're going for the range because you're expecting to rush them. But in fact, they are rushing you. Young Jake. And so that means that Stardust dies.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to win. He was looking really good in game 1. Not good enough.
I mean, I was actually, after the first game, I thought it was a toss-up because the Terran player played really well. Like, he played strategically well. He played intelligently. Everything he did made sense. Like, if it wasn't the standard, it made sense.
Yeah.
I like game 3. I mean, like, that's so smart if you tie it 1-1.
We were talking about this before the game started. We're going to see a lot of builds you don't normally see at the highest level. There's so many different ways to play the game that it's kind of cool to see what these other techniques are that can be used and, I guess, added to the builds that we know. I'm sorry, I heard production in my ear, but are we going to commercial? Are we going to start the next game soon? Did you hear that?
I did not hear it.
All right, we're going to be going into the next game soon.
So, speaking of what you just said, it sparked my interest. Do you think there's a correct way to play StarCraft?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about a way to win, I mean first of all,
correct way. I'm going to keep it as vague as
possible.
I'll
put it like this: there's definitely a wrong way to play.
Is there?
Yeah, absolutely. If we're talking about winning,
okay. Yes.
For instance, I can't go one base double eBay and get upgrades for the Marines that I have
Sure,
almost none of. That's not.
I mean, like let's take out all the meme builds aside. Do you think there's a right way to play StarCraft?
If you're going to win,
like, I guess I have to rephrase my wording on this. Is there a correct way to play StarCraft? Like, is there a specific way you're supposed to play the game?
well, I mean, this is. Some players would probably say like, oh, when people cheese, it's like, oh, you didn't even play the game. It was the way it was supposed to be played, and
which I disagree with.
I understand what the emotional argument. Here, while we're doing, can you look up these IDs real fast on your phone, Jake, just so we can see who's who, if there's anybody of prominence that's playing here, and then we kind of riff on this whole idea of what you were talking about. So basically, some builds, are completely micro-dependent. For instance, the build we saw just there, and you're choosing some luck there. Right. You are guaranteed to lose if for instance, in that last game, if the Protoss spawned on the same side of the map as the Terran.
Right. Which is totally possible.
And I mean, we would have a completely different story. We'd be laughing.
True.
In that game, when the rush didn't work. But in that case, he said, I want to take my chances, and if it works, I have to also hope that the build that he's doing is not very good, but second of all, I have to hope that my micro is good enough, because if that attack doesn't work, then Terran does lose the game. Now, that's a way to approach the game. I think if you're doing that build all the time, if that's how you play TVP on the ladder exclusively with that kind of build, well, you're going to run into a lot of problems, right? Because you're not going to get the same kind of win rate that you would normally get if you were maybe playing what we would call a more straight-up build or a more safe build. Now, a win is a win, right? So at the end of the day, Stardust is gone.
Right.
And our Terran player is going to move on, right? And so is there a right way? I guess there's probably some ways that are technically better than others if you want to talk about results, but look, we see all types of builds from pros of all caliber all the time. Flash cheeses. Flash goes for aggro. Flash goes for insane perfect endgame.
Right.
It's so. This is what makes StarCraft an exciting game, is because there are so many different approaches to it and possibilities and ways to see the game. And there's certain. The spirit of the idea behind certain builds is there.
So I googled one of them. Seems like they were a retired player for NBC Game Hero.
Do you have the ID? Hero?
No, it's 910.
Oh, 910. Okay. All right. And that is our Terran. Okay. Well, that would make sense.
Yeah.
There's his ID there. All right.
I mean, so he has a Wikipedia.
Okay. And then go ahead and check that other ID. Now, in this game, so we can just talk about what's happening here. Protoss did elect to go for a quick gas steal. And so this is one of the oldest tools that Protoss will use against Terran, especially on one-on-one maps, is that you take the Terran's gas. Terran, of course, needs to get their tech up, although it does seem like in some cases this is not as strong as it used to be, as Terrans have become incredibly good at getting a command center up on the low ground. In fact, a lot of times, if you were to take the Terran's gas, they might not even care because they weren't going to take it anyways. But this time around, Protoss went for it. Did we find the
other
Protoss?
Person has no Wikipedia?
Okay, so 910 is our more known player, but we already had Stardust die here.
Yeah.
So
the funny thing about non-known players, a lot of them in Brood War are just insane. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, this is the funny thing is, like, if you're in Korea, try playing StarCraft at 7 o'clock at night here. Everybody is a monster.
Right.
Like, Jake and I were playing at my place yesterday. It's like,
I'm
like trying to show him stuff, and like sometimes I just encounter somebody in placement. I'm like, oh my god,
yeah,
this guy is so good. Okay, so when you take a gas, right, you've slowed down the Terran tech. In this case, probably not as much because he just goes for a quick CC. But we have a Citadel here, so we're gonna have a DT rush.
Yep. I think it's a pretty hit or miss strat. I mean,
I feel like this is one of the more flimsy strategies you could have.
Yeah.
You know, like it's.
I feel like they're just really, like, they have to do damage, or else you're just behind. Especially if you don't take an Nexus and you don't have any future plans. I mean, I guess you can go legs off of it, but I mean, like, what can you even do?
Yeah, I mean, it's.
If it just fails straight up.
mean, this is a lot of this is also dependent on the Protoss or the Terran just sort of not expecting it. People don't really do this very often.
Right.
Yeah, one of the problems with DT rushes is even though they can kill Terrans quickly, if the Terrans are ready for it, the Protoss is probably going to lose the game.
Yeah.
That's the thing. DTs do not really allow you to get
momentum, I would say.
Momentum.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, it's not like DTs are inherently good at fighting Terran units.
Yeah.
You know, once you have vultures and tanks, it's like, all right, you know, and mines, you know, the mines will kill them even if there's no detection around. Now, we need to see from Terran, is there a turret, though? Because, you know, a lot of times that we've seen already, they're rushing into siege mode. They're trying to get another command. You know,
this SCV is so big. Okay, it looks like it shouldn't get the scout.
No, it might. He needs to block it with the probes.
Oh, my God. Okay, but even the...
Oh. No, I mean, you wouldn't be
That was really well timed, though. You know, like, if that was a couple seconds earlier, you'd be like, why are you pulling so many probes to stop my scout? But it looks like it could have been a transfer.
So he's going for double scans here.
That's
now, I mean, here's the thing. Double scans is nice, but, you know, he's probably going to scan the main here. I don't know if he's going to end up seeing... The main on this this map is big, right? But he hasn't scanned yet.
Well, I mean, even the missing tech can be a really big tell. So it depends on where the scan is, but sometimes you can infer what it is without even seeing what it is.
Right.
So far, he's doing a really good job of
he's got siege mode.
I think the scans are finished, though.
Oh, no, yeah, he has enough. This is just not going to work.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Okay, that was one scan. So that's kind of surprising.
Yeah. So I guess what's the follow-up here, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
the DT can't go in and
one thing you can do
is
is try to get a shuttle, and then if they scan, you pick up the DTs. But he has Goliath too, so it's like
it just feels like
every what are we doing here? Yeah.
And even if he did drop the DTs in the main, there's scans like.
So there's one DT here. Now, what he might be trying to do is kind of space them out so that...
Oh, he's going to get a
tank.
tank.
This is crazy. Does he not have the second scan?
Why doesn't he have the second scan, though?
I don't know. He must have spent it in some shot we didn't see.
I mean, if he takes more damage, if these tanks
There it is.
There's
now. He needs to split these up.
Very oh, good. My God.
Oh,
okay.
Never mind.
That was so close.
But
still, if he doesn't have another scan here, he could still lose tanks. Okay, he does have a scan.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so this just, like, did not work.
Yeah, you got a tank, but it's definitely not worth the tech choice.
Protoss is going to be feeling really insecure here. Every time you see a DT made, it's not a Dragoon.
Right.
DT builds, once you've attacked with them, they tend to not do very much. Like, after the initial attack's done.
The only thing is it's kind of hard for 910 to push across the map because there's DTs as well.
Correct, but he also is probably going to be okay with just staying back, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And, like...
He should be okay with it.
Buying time as much as he can, right?
We'll have to see. You kind of have to wait until science vessels before you can push across the map. But like you said, you really don't need to either. Because of all those DT investments. You can actually just play a game off of 2-base for a really long time. Quick Stargate.
Well, he just has to get an Arbiter tech. If you go DT, it's incredibly difficult to tech into carriers. Because you also have to get a robo.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like you're just going to try to tech.
I mean, he would just die if this was carriers. You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, if he gets a robo, too. I mean, I guess if you want to neglect getting a robo and just hope that, you know.
Yeah. I'm actually not... gambling from this point on would be a good choice, I think. You have to cut as many corners as you possibly can to come back, I think, to some extent. If you just play a straight-up game from a big deficit, it's doesn't strategically make a lot of sense.
So... I mean, I don't know what he's gonna do. The thing is, when you're Protoss and you're in the spot, you know that the Terran's gonna come out and punish you. Now, I like this little technique
this is
here.
good, yeah.
This is cute. Just kind of trying to take a fight over here.
And it's not like the tanks can really go back over the.
Because 910 is a good player. Now he's gonna try to push across here, and we might have them try to sandwich him while he's on the bridge. This little tactic could actually work.
Yeah, if he catches it on the bridge.
If he tries, yeah, because it's bad on both sides. But I don't think he has his northern army moving in here.
Mines are going to cover him, and he also pushed too far through already. Like, I don't think he can sandwich it anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and then, none of those tanks are dying, so he can siege them all up.
Yeah.
We will probably, this is probably going to be it.
Even if he takes all the time to, I mean, okay, every worker just went down.
Yeah, and notice that he's making a turret here. He'll scan when he sees a DT.
He might lose a tank, but...
Does he not have any scans?
He has to have scans. I don't know what he's doing right now. Okay, there's a scan.
Okay, a little bit messy there with that attack, but I mean, he's going to be able to take this Nexus out. The Vultures are now going to come inside the main.
Yeah. I mean, even in a weird world where this gets cleaned up, I think its damage has already been done.
Well, there was a couple, I think, bad decisions here by Terran. For one, he was not ready to scan, because if there were 4 tanks there, he can't reclaim this.
Right.
And I think that sending the Vultures up into the main was probably unwise when you consider there were this many Dragoons out on the map.
The only thing is, do these Vultures do much in the fight? It's probably better if they do kill workers, right?
I actually would disagree. I think because of this weird kind of boxy area, I think you just want the Vultures to be on the way to fight with the tanks.
Right.
But I guess then again, he did lose 2 tanks.
I think if he did lose 2 tanks, it just makes sense to bulk your army. But with only 2 tanks on the other side, maybe it's best to try and kill as many workers as possible. Because he's probably going to lose the position either way. But I mean, either way, I think both options are fine.
Well, I wonder if Terrence shot himself in the foot here. Because this is, like, not going to be easy for, well, I guess actually he has so much supply. Never mind. Yeah, I look at the worker count, it's 29 to 45 now.
I think if the third goes down,
Terran's good.
If the third base goes down for Protoss.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's another easy approach in here. It's hard for Dragoons to advance on tanks and Vultures in these kind of areas. If you don't have, like, almost a 180 or more degree attack going on here, it's just, like, really hard to pull off.
Right.
One of the things about when you have this many Vultures with the tanks is that they can, for instance, cover the tanks when the Zealots drop on them.
Yeah, I mean, everything goes down here. Even in a weird, a weird case that it does get cleaned up, he'd be dead, but it doesn't get cleaned up either.
Right.
Third base is under pressure. If the third base dies, there's no way he can actually stay with the Terran 1-1.
GG.
So, GG.
So we're going to jump right now into game 2 here. And I got to say, a lot of that was the Protoss's build.
Yeah.
That was probably a good example of a build order that, like, you will not see a pro use, but you might encounter
on the ladder.
On the ladder, where you're like, you know, if you're a Terran player, you're just like, what? DTs?
Yeah.
You know, like, I was scanning to see if he took his third, and scanning to see if he was going carriers or.
Would it just blind countered your build?
Yeah, and he, you know, part of this is almost hoping that there's not enough scans, and maybe the DTs can come in there. I think in that build, probably you want to try to kill the tanks, because they don't have mines with that. And then your Dragoons can, like, shoot down the bunker, and then you sort of, you might be able to force a lift.
I think any build that can be countered by someone playing standard is just a bad build. You know what I mean by that?
I mean, it's certainly not a build I would recommend somebody use.
It's just like you rolling a chance of just losing the game by someone playing a normal game is weird that you do a build like that.
It is one of the fascinating things about laddering, is you see someone approaching the game in a certain way, and a lot of times it's representative of their rank. So if you have, like, the lowest rank, like whether it's like bronze in StarCraft 2 or is it F? F's the lowest rank at StarCraft.
E or F, yeah.
I actually don't know. But like it's funny what you see, because whatever you see at the lowest ranks, it's like, well, they're probably just not running any builds that work,
right? Or
they would have some level of success, or what they're running against the people that are on the same rank as them. It's like it's so low that we're almost not even talking about the same game anymore.
Yeah, as you go up, you have just a higher win rate over everything.
And then you get a game like that one, and I mean, we'll see how Protoss does in game 2. I think there's still hope, but you know, it's one thing to kind of point out here is, like, probably at some of the levels that guy's played at, the Terrans just don't have. They forgot to get turrets. Their gases, their scans were late. And in that build, you don't get mines right away, and you're like, well, I don't know, man. This is beating all these people.
I mean, even that Terran player almost died. Like, it was looking a little bit hairy. He almost like he's losing tanks or whatever. Like,
right, yeah.
It looked a little scary for like a minute.
That's cool, the idea that, okay, this DT gets in there and it works, but the problem is that the follow-up is garbage.
Yeah.
It's Garbabo.
Yeah.
If it was a city, it'd be called Garbtopolis.
Garbtopolis.
Because it's like, you're sitting there, your robo's late, you still have no idea what the Terran's actually doing. One thing to note, you don't have any scouting there, right? You don't know if there's an army. You don't know if it's like 5 factories. You have no you don't have any healthy follow-up, and so it's sort of like,
Yeah.
all right, well, I don't know what we're doing here.
I mean, yeah, he just took a gamble. It didn't work. Terran player is switching it up, playing a different opener already. Full vision on everything.
Yeah.
Still mining on with 3 guys. We'll see if he takes off. What his plan is here.
So, we've only had TVPs so far today, but we're on blockchain again.
Yeah. The TVPs we've had so far are really not, you know, like the idea, or not the, oh, this is cute.
Look at that. He's going to have to mind move out of there.
He's taking damage.
How funny is this?
They're not like what you envision TVP if you like think of a standard TVP game. You know what I mean?
We have not. Yeah, we have not had any, as many of the standard builds here on both sides. I guess Stardust did play a pretty decent kind of straight up game. He tried to play straight up. It was actually the Terran that was playing very unusual builds. But those builds from the Terran are good ones to have. I mean, you'll beat a really good player with that.
We have 2-fact, by the way.
Mm-hmm. One of the easiest ways to figure out what's going on for the Terran is you just need to get over their factories.
Right.
Seeing the science facility, seeing the command center, that is nice. But really, if you see the factories, then you know, okay, when is the actual attack going to come?
Right.
If you're floating over them and they've had 2 factories for a while, you do not need to have 7 or 8 gates up.
Yeah.
You don't need it. You're okay. There are some 2-factory build pushes, which is one of the reasons why it's important to have 4 gates at some point in time. You don't generally see players on just 2 gates.
Yeah. You wouldn't have enough to really.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. For too long.
So we should have mines upgraded here.
You're trying to get to a certain.
Actually, he's getting vulture speed, but he's getting 2 tanks.
Yeah, this is a. There are many different 2-factory builds here, and this is one of them. And you said vulture speed.
He's gonna have 3 tanks and vulture speed.
So what happens is that he has no vultures yet, but the 3 tanks and the Marines are there to take damage, and then the vultures reinforce so quickly that the Protoss kind of can't stabilize. And it's very common for Protoss to have to deal with 2-factory on this map.
Right.
Because Terrans don't want to play late game. So range is done. Now it's very important he does as much damage as possible. To this army, which is he cannot easily heal, especially if he gets rid of the Marines. Because the Marines, they don't do that much, but it takes 4 Dragoon shots to kill a Marine.
Yeah.
Which is actually a lot. It takes 8 to kill a tank.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he is not controlling this right. So he pops 1 Dragoon. He's not kiting this very well. Oh my God, I think he's actually dead.
That's really bad.
So the vultures, by the time this push gets there will be 4 vultures with this. Yeah. Now he made 3 gates. He knows the problems he's going to be facing here. I don't know if Terran's upgrading other stuff.
Probably going to get another goon here on the way back. It's possible he could.
He's throwing down these mines. Oh, this is so bad.
Oh, here comes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, those are pretty big hits.
And now he gets the mine lays over here. Now the Reaver should be coming out soon, but I think it's too little, too late, and all you got to do is get up there and unpower the pylon.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was just a great build here from Terran. And I do, again, I question this build here from the Protoss. I think that if you're gonna do something like this, do an expand onto the island.
Yeah.
Do.
The Reaver just got taken out by mines.
Okay, so GG. So, 910, our well-known pro player is our notable. I don't know what's wrong with me. Our notable player is going to be moving on here. Okay, I think that series was really about like why some builds are not as good as others. I mean, especially game 1. Like he goes for a DT rush, and essentially the idea of the strategy is I hope my opponent's not ready for this. Now there's a lot of strategies like that. Like the game we saw where Stardust died.
Right.
But that was a better cheesy build.
Yeah, like I said, you can't just be countered by someone playing standard in
also,
that case.
Like you see that DT rush, and so much of that is just hinged on them not being ready. And then if it doesn't work, you have no options in late game. You've got none.
Yeah.
You saw that double racks Marine Rush that was adjacent to the Protoss' main. There's a lot there. I mean, even if the Protoss holds that, they've probably lost a lot.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the only real way for that to fail is if it's bottom left and he's just on the other side of the map. Like, I mean, that would be really failed.
Actually, we're going to go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to continue on with our qualifier matches here at the KSL. So do not go away.
네, 오늘 경기 같은 경우에는 굉장히 또 박빙의 이 승부가 좀 예상이 되기 때문에 길게 또 갈 가능성이 높거든요.
아니 4강이 이제
I think our
시작된단
mics are still
말이에요.
hot.
근데
Are our
오늘
mics still on? I think our mics are still going
거의
out.
결승급이에요.
네,
최소
맞아요.
4강 이상급.
예.
야 이거 천하의 김민철 선수.
예.
천하의 김민철도 이거 맞기 어려워요.
자, 철벽을 뚫기 위해서 다크를
나갔어요.
나갔어요.
와 사신.
와, 제대로 일단은 찌르기 뒤로 갑니다.
이거는 대형해도 늦죠.
자, 하이브.
체력이 4천이어도 이거는 터져요.
네.
네, 그리고 지금 커세어가 이 오버로드도 한번 커트할 수 있고요.
이거 대박. 이거 오버로드 지켜야 돼요.
자, 커세어 다수입니다. 여기서 커세어 좀 잃었고요.
오히려 다크가 저글링을 잡죠 지금.
네. 자, 다크 3개가 남아있는 상황입니다.
네 하이브 지켜야 돼요.
자, 오버로드 오면서 커세어가 일단 치고 있고요.
네, 이거는 그래도 천만다행으로 김민철 선수가 하이브까지는 지켜낸 모습이었고
네.
여기서 만약 덜컥 하이브 깨졌더라면은 뭐 디파일러 마운드 뭐 울트라로 전환하는 타이밍에 차질이 생겼을 가능성이 높거든요.
네.
그리고 이제 가장 큰 문제는 지금이에요. 병력 차이가 이거 아예 상대가 안 됩니다. 옵저버를 끊어주지 못하면 이거 답도 없어 보이는데요.
네. 자, 그리고 지금 다크 템플러는 병력을 줄여주는 선택을 좀 했었거든요. 그러면서 중앙 쪽에 일부 전진을 맞춰놓은 장윤철이고요.
와 이러면서 질러 계속 실어 나르기까지.
네.
와.
자, 다시 들어가요. 이거 하이브. 자, 주변에 병력을 일단은 찍어 놓습니다.
네, 그래도 어쨌든 이 저글링이 이제는 하이브 아드레날린 업그레이드가 이제 된 저글링이기 때문에
네.
강력하단 말이죠. 좀 이런 부분에 있어서 좀 수비 능력을 발휘하면서 뭐 옵저버를 커트한다든지 좀 양동 작전을 해줘야 되는 김민철 선수고요.
야금야금 공격의 활로를 조금씩 열고 있습니다. 김민철벽을 뚫기 위해서 조금씩 구멍을 내고 있는 거예요.
예, 균열을 지금 만들어내는 데는 성공을 했고요.
네.
예, 그래서 여기서 결국 질러 크레도 많을 때, 네, 이거 디파일러까지 가기 전에 피해를 많이 줘놔야 돼요.
네. 자, 스톤도 잘 사용을 하고 있고요. 6시 쪽 교전부터 중앙
와.
쪽에 신기가 좀 불편해집니다.
야,
자, 실어 나르고 있어요. 안쪽으로 들어갑니다.
이거 완전 흔들려. 이거 지금 스포닝풀 깨지는 게 제일 최악이거든요.
자, 여기서 파괴를 이거 큰일이에요.
지켜야 돼요.
지금 주력 영웅이 이거 주력 유닛이 저글링인데
네.
결정적이죠.
예.
이거 지금 어쨌든 러커가 있기 때문에 뭐 스커지를 통해서 옵저버를 잡는다든지 아니면 디파일러가 다크소울을 뿌리면서 한 번쯤 좀 시간을 벌어줘야 되는 상황이고요.
자, 이러면서 본대는 진격합니다. 중앙 쪽.
네, 최상의 경기력이에요.
옵저버라도
잡아야.
자, 옵저버를 끌어내야 되는데.
옵저버라도 잡지 못하면 이것도 못하면 게임 그 답이 없습니다.
네. 자, 앞쪽에는 드라군이고요. 뒤쪽에는 질럿이 아직 대기 상태입니다. 그러면서 조금씩 셔틀로 또 이거.
네, 장윤철 선수는 지금 김민철 선수의 빈틈을 만들어냈어요. 결국 저글링 생산에 차질이 생기면서 분명 물량에 문제가 생긴단 말이죠.
네.
이 부분에 지금 힘을 실어줘야 됩니다.
중간 라인 많이 밀렸어요.
여기서 저글링이 있어야 되는데 저글링이 없잖아요.
네. 타이밍이 지금 늦춰놨거든요.
네, 러커가 보조해주고 원래 딜러는 누굽니까? 저글링이에요.
네. 자, 저글링이 지금 수가 없는 상황이기 때문에 중간 교전에서 좀 밀렸습니다. 장윤철 다시 한번 병력을 돌립니다.
이거 지금 자원 남고 있는데 쭉쭉 뽑아내면서 어쨌든 지금 타이밍에 이 김민철 선수에게 확실한 타격을 줘야 되고 사막화.
네, 이거는 결정적 장면.
자,
저글링 찍어도 안 돼요.
네, 그리고 지금 하이브 체력 없다. 지지!
네, 참 오늘만을 위해 기다렸다
네.
라는 듯이 굉장한 컨트롤을 보여줬죠 장윤철 선수.
네, 이거 깊숙이 들어왔을 때 일단 퇴로까지 생각을 해야 됩니다, 장윤철.
그렇죠. 왜냐면
조심해야 되고요.
질럿이 너무 많아서
네.
러커 저글링과 히드라 이거 같이면은 이거 지옥이에요.
자,
그쵸?
뒤쪽에 뒤 들어왔어요.
조합이 안 좋아요.
빠져요.
네, 조합이 그렇게 싹 좋지는 않습니다.
네.
네, 이거 저거 병력 굉장히 많아 보이거든요.
자, 이거 한 번에 들어와서 김민 선수 걷어낼 수 있습니다.
근데 스톰이 말이 안 돼요 진짜.
너무 잘 들어가고 있는데요?
네. 이렇게 되면 죽어도 나쁘지 않은 그런 상황.
자, 앞뒤로 스톰을 연신 맞춥니다. 자, 그래도 몰아내고 있는, 그래도 파이팅 해주고 있는 김민철.
이게 일단은 어쨌든 리버를 좀 전환하면서 좀 체제를 전환하기 위한 소모전이었는데 그 생각보다 좀 너무 소모를 하긴 했어요.
그쵸.
조합 자체가 지금 깨진 상황이기 때문에 약간 한동안은 또 김민철 선수가 숨을 좀 고를 수 있는 그런 상황이 됐고요.
근데
네.
그 위험한 타이밍에 장윤철이 계속 커세어를 또 찔러 넣어요.
그렇죠. 그래서 이제부터는 커세어에 당하면 안 되는 거고.
네.
네. 이 정도면 그래도 잘 막았다고 말씀하신 대로 얘기할 수 있는 상황인데.
네.
저 커세어 정말 얄밉죠.
그렇습니다.
근데 얄밉게 하는 게 잘하는 겁니다.
예, 요리수비 피하면서 다시 한번 뒤로 도망가고 있는 커세오고요. 그러면서
네.
또 질러 서수 찔러 넣어봅니다. 견적 내고 빠지는 질러.
근데 멀티원데 이렇게 소수의 러커도 변태시켜놔서 시간 끄는 거 되게 좋고요.
네.
이거 무시하고 근데 요 정도 저글링이 약간 좀 부족해 보이긴 하는데요.
그래도
자, 이거.
넣어봅니다. 김민철 선수 많이 화나 있어요 지금.
추가로도 저걸리 오고 있기 때문에
그쵸.
이거 넥서스가 한번 일단 취소될 것 같긴 한데
네.
그러면 그때부터 괜찮아져요. 상대방 가스 멀티 하나가 더 늘어나는 게 아니라서 김민철 슬슬 흐름 좀 바꾸는데요.
그렇죠.
야금야금 수비를 통해서 조금씩 그 결국 중심을 잃지 않았고 야금야금 따라오긴 했거든요.
와,
자 그런데 그걸 또 끊으려고 지금 나왔어요 병력이.
이게 일반적인 플레이가 아니어서 그래요.
예.
그러니까 멀티 견제를 가면서도 러커를 섞어줘요. 그런데?
아 이건 큰데요.
자 리버의
그런데요.
대응 뒤로 왔고요. 그리고 오버로드 지금 잡히면서 또 인구스 트러블 또 발생했어요.
와, 장윤철 진짜 이거 어떻게 사람이 이렇게 부지런할 수가 있는지. 놀랍습니다. 이 커세어는 무슨 치트키스가 하듯이 안 죽어요.
아 지금
자
킬도 엄청날 것 같아요.
이거 위험해요.
진영 붕괴.
자리를 프로토스가 먼저 잡았을 때 사이오닉 스톰이 굉장히 세게 들어오거든요.
자,
내가
너무 잘
인구수가
잡았어요.
막혔어요.
예.
리버도 있고요.
아니 인구수가 막혔어. 유닛이 안 나와요.
자 오버로드 피를 입었고 뒤에 있는 병력들이 이제 옵니다.
속도를 아예 김민철 선수가
예.
따라갈 수가 없습니다.
너무 빨리 움직였는데요.
이거 질러 본질적으로 난입시키고 언덕 쪽을 자리 잡으면은 이거 김민철 선수에게 정말 성대한 타격을 입힐 수 있는데요.
네 다리 쪽부터도 교전입니다. 스톱 떨어지고요.
아니 그냥 대충 싸워도 이길 정도로
네.
자리 자체가 이길 수밖에 없는 그런 위치예요.
아 그리고 리버의 활용이 너무 좋기 때문에 지금 피해가 엄청납니다.
오늘만큼은 저그전의 신인데요 완전히. 와, 이거 어떻게 이렇게까지 잘할 수 있냐는 생각이 들 정도로
네.
완벽에 가까운 1경기 이상의
그렇죠.
그런 멀티태스킹입니다.
자 김민철 선수의 앞마당이 환하게 드러났습니다.
지금 장윤철 선수의 저 APM 보세요.
예.
아니 저는 보통 한 20분대 시간 오면 200 중후반까지 떨어져야 되는 선수였었는데
네.
인생 걸고 게임하나 봐요.
엄청나게 올라갔어요.
아니, 그렇습니다.
평균치가 굉장히 많이 올라갔고 자 그러면서 후속 변형도 별동대가 아닌 꽤 큰 규모를 준비하고 있습니다.
이번 시즌 중 모든 프로토스 중에서 가장 저그전을 이번 세트 하나만 놓고 볼 때 잘한 게 아니라는 생각이 들 정도거든요. 이거 봐요
아니,
지금.
예.
모든
뭐죠?
곳에서 전투를 만들어내고 있고
아니.
전투를 만들면서 이득을 보면서 멀티까지 다 하고 있어요.
네, 취재 1점 따라갔어요. 김민철 선수입니다.
네.
이에 맞서는 장윤철 선수입니다.
경기가 또 이렇게 되네요.
아 진짜.
네. 오, 김민철 선수 계속해서 꼬이고 있어요.
자 이렇게 되면 앞서 중앙 쪽에 나갔던 병력이 아쉬웠고요.
와, 센스가
와.
체력 없는 거 찍는 거 봐요.
와
야.
이거 셔틀 이거
이것도 질렀고 하이템플러 태워서 막 본진 드랍 가면 이것도 초토화될 수 있거든요.
네, 이게 지금 주력 병력을 신경 써야 되는 타이밍이다 보니까 이거 본진 지역을 놓칠 가능성이 굉장히 높아요.
이미 저기
아니.
도착했는데요.
질럿으로 3시, 드래곤 4개로 정면에서 압박.
와.
그러면서 본진
뭐죠?
셔틀.
예.
이러면 셔틀이 통할 수밖에 없는.
아 이번에 들어갔어요. 들어갔어요.
통합니다.
아 이거 들어갔어요.
통해요.
아래쪽에 오버가 있긴 한데 이거 미니맵이라도 봐야죠. 미니맵이라도.
그러니까 봐도 상관이 없어요. 무조건 통하는 거예요.
아.
빨리 빼야죠.
자 6킬이에요. 7킬.
이거 장윤철 선수가
11킬.
큰 피해 입히는데요.
아 이거 피 너무 심합니다. 너무 심합니다.
네.
대응이 너무 늦었어요.
한 부대 잡고 하나 더. 그러니까 이 경기력이 이 다크가 들어가기 전에 통할 수밖에 없게끔 만든다니까요. 아니 그 몇 개도 없는데 드라곤 4개 가지고 히드라와 교전을 한다니까요. 왜냐면 나 언제라도 정면 갈 수 있어라고 겁을 주고요.
예.
셋이 저기 저기에 질럿이 가서 나 여기도 갈 수 있어. 경기력이 이것도 시간 죽더라도 최단 시간 벌잖아요.
근데
네.
그렇게 되니까 중앙 병력도 이동하잖아요.
네, 그러니까 그 다크를 이제 구석적으로 최대
와.
시간 벌면서 히드라를 살짝 빼서 그 빈틈을 또 한번 정면으로 노리겠다라는 거죠. 이거
그리고
히드라.
오, 예.
완전 흔들깁니다. 그리고 또 여기에 스톱 떨어지고요.
그렇죠. 히드라 6개 공짜로 가져가고요.
예.
그리고 정면 대위기 조합이 단순 히드라로는 드랍템을 이기기가 어렵습니다.
네. 일단 어쨌든 러커가 그리고 있긴 한데 자칫 잘못하면 그 위쪽
이거 잘 들었어요.
이거 한 번만 막으면 돼요.
이거 잘 들었어요.
왜냐면
7킬이에요.
자, 그러면
제이멀티 하는 척하면서
예.
올인 가는 거였거든요.
네, 맞습니다.
이거 한 번만 막아낼 수 있는 옵저버 끊어주면서 러커 한 번만 버티면
이거를 버텨야 되고
잠깐, 이걸 막아야 돼요.
이게 되게
이게
중요해요.
막아야-
러커 숫자 부족해요.
많이
많이
부족해요.
부족해요.
이거 스컬지 없이는 히드라로 저 옵저버를 못 잡거든요.
자, 병력 너무 많습니다.
네, 옵저버 3개.
아,
앞마당 끝내버릴 수 있습니다.
네, 이거 결국 프로브를 잡는다 하더라도
예.
김민철 선수가 이거를 이 병력들을 다 잡아내야 그게 의미가 있는 거거든요.
프로브 주고 경기 잡으면 되는 거예요.
네.
그렇죠.
자, 뒤로 갑니다. 장윤
Going
선수.
into our next match.
프로토스 전선.
Not sure that's going to be once we hop in there. We'll let you know.
know.
So far, we've had 2 PVTs. Yep. This is a story of builds that work and builds that don't work.
Yeah, that has been the story of this morning, hasn't it?
It has been. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else we're going to have here today. We have a lot of mismatches, it's fair to say, because we have a lot of old pros playing against, ladder monsters.
I would say our first series was our best
It was
match.
good.
It wasn't actually a mismatch, it felt.
No, it was
I
very
would,
good.
I would actually say Stardust should have won, like the series overall.
Well, I think one guy prepared his builds a little bit better than the
Yeah.
other. And look, I mean, in that last game, they went for, a risky, gambly build, and it worked.
Yeah, it could have gone either way. I mean,
Um,
statistically, he had the best chance of winning with it. I mean,
Right.
66% is not bad. If you had a ladder
No.
record that was 66%.
Well,
you'd
that
be
and the
top.
Protoss also did not make a Zealot or a Dragoon. He
Mm.
went right into Dragoon range, so that's
Right.
the dream if you're Terran here.
Nexus first, I guess, would be the true dream.
Yes.
And like somehow he
Nexus
forgets
first
his
is
gateway.
just like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you're playing in that situation. You are going to win. So we'll be hopping into this next match shortly. All these matches are just a little bit pre-recorded, so this might look a little bit different than what you guys are used to seeing in a StarCraft cast, because we jump right into, after we finish match 1, we jump right into match 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all done by replays. If you've watched the qualifier cast, I'm pretty sure all the qualifiers have been like this. So, yeah, you should be familiar with this 12-hour or 10-hour broadcast of.
We're going to be here all day.
replays, Yeah.
So make yourself at home because we're not going anywhere. It is fun to do this. It's kind of cool to get all these games together, and you get to see the full process of the KSL and how we finally whittle it down to those few players that are left over.
Right.
When we get to the main studio event of this. But it's cool. It's important to know that this tournament really is for anyone and everyone. But yeah, today's going to be a long one, and we're going to see a lot of builds we don't normally see.
Yeah.
We've already had that here.
Too.
A lot of what?
A lot of names we won't normally see.
Right, of course. And this is one of the funny things about StarCraft, whether it's StarCraft 1 or StarCraft 2, is that you'll see these different builds in different skill areas of the ladder.
Right.
Right? And so because anybody can compete, we have some builds that they just probably won't work at S rank.
Right.
Okay? They might work at C rank.
Yeah. Remember, so I've been teasing Artosis a little bit because I've been playing a little bit of PvZ.
Yeah.
And me and Scarlett came up with this Sarah-less PvZ, and he's like, well, that only works in D.
Oh, Corsair? Yeah.
Yeah, that only works at D rank and pro gamers. There's no in between.
Right. I mean, you pretty much have to get a Corsair in order to respond to everything, but you could be like so meta that maybe you could just spring this on a guy who thought, well, wait a minute, there should be a Corsair coming out, and instead there's extra gates and stuff like that. So, jumping into this game, let me check here. We should have in fact, the actual IDs here. They sent it to me on my phone. Just let me take a look here.
So reach July.
1 second.
What an
they
ID.
have it coordinating with the actual. Okay, so this Reach July is, in fact, it is Oops Reach, old school Reach. This guy was one of the first great Protosses of our time. This was one of the guys that actually managed to just mass up Dragoons and kind of not mess with the Terran and kind of take the whole map. A lot of the early parts, especially the first year or two of StarCraft, the games are fascinating because the game is so new. People will laugh about how bad they were. It's like, dude, nobody knew how to play. So it was very wild, wild west. And, in the early stages of StarCraft, Terrans figured out very quickly that Marines were completely and totally inferior. You can get a couple at the start, but if you're going for Marines and medics, you will lose to basically everything. So, Terran invented mech. They would wall off. They get a siege tank. They realized vultures are incredibly strong, not just with their speed and ability to kill probes and zealots, but the fact that they can plant mines as well. And so Reach, this Protoss player that we have here in the upper left, by the way, the Terran is, according to what they've given to me, a relative unknown here.
So I guess you could say another mismatch.
It could be, but then again, Reach is a very old player. So I don't know what kind of condition he's in right now. But Reach was one of the first players that basically figured out, wait a minute, if they're going to mech up, I can't fight them right away.
Right.
I got to take more bases and get more Dragoons and Zealots. And so this is really where we got to see the bones of PvT start to develop, was off of players like this. Now, Reach was a good player, like, so long ago.
Right.
Okay? I mean, all these guys that are playing are still good. If you throw, like, an old school player on, you're like, oh, right, it's kind of fun to watch him play and be like, damn, he was really good for his time. But I don't know who this Terran is.
Yeah, that's true.
This Terran could be some guy that
could
plays.
Could be a ladder monster. It could
be,
just be a fan.
Yeah, I mean that's the big question here. And
do you ever get nostalgia for like the beginnings of StarCraft, where essentially everything was viable because there was no standard, there was no efficiency,
Yeah, I got to start playing. I guess I got to start playing right as Brood War came out, because I think that's when my house got internet, because that's how old I am. Where it's like we finally had an actual internet connection.
That's funny.
And that's funny because you find out how bad you are too. You're like, what? And everybody's mean to you. You're like, this is just a horrible experience.
Right.
And so Reach is going for one of the most textbook builds ever here. He's just going to get a quick Nexus up. If you're wondering, what about 2 Factory like we saw in the last game? Well, you're going to have it this time. And 2 Factory is one of the cheesiest ways for a Terran to basically just deny a macro game here. I mean, they just both the races have this ability to just completely destroy each other early on if things are not handled. Oh, I thought he was going to moving shot that. I guess he couldn't. Actually has 10 HP, not 5. Excuse me. So in this case, he's hidden the factory. Now this is not the same 2 Factory build. We need to see what's upgrading there. But our observer's not going to click on it. There we go. It's going to be mines. Now, one thing to point out here is this is not the same kind of 2 Factory build that we see from a person who wants to push and win. Yeah. This is because he knows that the Dragoon is going to come down here and try to fight what might be a bunker, right?
Oh, this is nice. If he can stop a scout or something here, this is going to be a lot
here's
of
the thing: is that if the Dragoon's over here and it looks like he's trying to control a possible push, the Vultures are just going to run in here. In fact, are we just not getting a shot of this? Are the Vultures over there?
I think they're still by the factory.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I saw. Sorry, it's green and yellow here, so something is hard for my eyes to see what is what. So the 2 Vultures are going to come down here now, and they're going to lay mines. And one of the problems that you're going to face here now, Reach actually had a kind of a unique setup here. Normally all the Dragoons are out here. We saw Flash actually beat, I think it was Rain with a build similar to this.
Yeah, that was really nice positioning on the Goons. There's really nothing here that can, I mean, he's not really able to do much. Even avoiding the mines really well.
Yeah, well, he's being really smart. He's going, okay.
Yeah, that was just masterful positioning.
Now, here's the thing. He's going for a Reaver. This Terran is, I don't think it's going to work, man.
I mean, that was shut down pretty hard. Oh.
Okay, so he's got nice moving shot. Reach has still got it, ladies and gentlemen. Is this Vulture going to get inside the main? What?
Okay, nice
StarCraft ramps.
Oh, no. But almost would have... Oh, he's going to get another... Wow. Okay, he doesn't get the good.
Nice. Kills off that mine.
That was really well controlled, honestly. It can go so poorly so quickly if you're not...
Yeah, Reach is pretty good. It's really cool to see Reach using a really modern style, too. He did the fast expand in a Reaver. Now, the problem for Terrans when they deal with Reaver, and it's one of the reasons why Reaver is a lot of times defaulted as you see that you're being rushed, is the Reaver, we used to think of it as more of like a harass unit, and it is, of course, still a harass unit, but you can just fight with it.
Yeah, and just have it do like damage over time.
Yeah, I mean, every Reaver shot, look at this.
Oh,
I mean,
that was a huge shot.
So sick.
You can get a tank here.
Yep.
Oh, so close. 2 HP.
And the thing is, Terran, due to the build order that he went for, he's basically zoned himself out of any vitality in late game, right? Like he can't. There's not much he can do, and I don't even know that he has an eBay.
I don't even know if he can retreat. He might not be
one of the funny things. Okay, he's reaches control of the river, not quite as good as it. I think we used to see it as. You don't get an eBay when you're doing this, and so like there's no way to penalize the presence of the shuttle and reaver. Now he's got a wraith coming here. Oh my god. But oh my god.
Okay, so he has like 4 SCVs now.
Yeah. And now he's just going to leave.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost forced to attack now, but there's no attack here.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Reaver is still useful. The Wraith is going to pop out soon.
Yeah, and he's getting out before the Wraith even gets here.
The Dragoons can actually cover this now.
Yeah. And this is pretty much it. I don't see how you stop. I mean, like, your economy's shot and you can't counterattack, so, like, what do you have here? So
this is clearly a mismatch here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is just, like, one player is... And I actually think that the idea of our Terran player was pretty good, but you can see the execution was not very.
Yeah.
It was
it's
sloppy.
It's not to the same level of reach, you know.
Okay. He does have a Dragoon with this, so the Dragoon can help cover. Oh, Dragoons don't attack sometimes. What am I seeing here?
Oh, drop the roof.
Drop!
Oh,
okay, whoa.
And he's losing goons.
All right. That was hard to watch.
Yeah, that felt weird. I mean, I don't know if he didn't know there was a Wraith or if just wasn't
I feel
prepared.
like Reach was a great player, but right now it's like a linebacker's 38 and he's got bad knees here. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that was.
It's still propelling.
I mean, the thing is the Terran is still so screwed. Because look, Terran doesn't have a base. I mean, in StarCraft, there's almost no circumstances in which one guy's sitting on one base for a long time, and for one base to 2 base.
Yeah.
Same in StarCraft too.
Right.
It's like this is why almost all builds are just like, let me try to get a base
at least
up.
a natural expansion.
At least get a natural expansion up because third
like
base, fourth
minimum.
base, it's like, oh well, we can maybe make something work here. But one base at 2 base, it's like, well, if you have double the minerals,
yeah,
double the gas.
One base economy is actually it scales way faster too.
Right.
Like everything is more expensive if you're on one base, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So like the more bases you have, the less expensive relatively everything is.
Right.
So even though it's double the economy, it's also half the price of the units if you think about it.
Terran is just sitting on 17 SCVs. I think this kid is shell-shocked. I think he's like.
Well, he only has one command center to build SCVs, so.
Yeah, but I don't
There's
even know.
no meals in this game.
I don't know that he was spamming out SCVs this entire time. It almost seems like he's fallen off.
I mean, look at
the
his
wheels
economy.
have fallen off of the bus.
This is a wheelless bus for sure.
Yes.
If I've ever seen a wheelless bus, it's this.
Yeah, this is. I don't know what to say. Speed has been upgraded. He's actually now. This is how old school Reach is. He's going to bulldog this, which is fine. It's actually like a pretty good way to play. But all right, GG.
Yeah, GG.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say about that game.
Yeah.
I mean, Terran did not execute the strategy very well.
I mean, and
he
also
did not have a
just
follow-up.
Reach had a sick defense too.
Yeah.
Like he played it miraculously.
Well, one of the funny
even
things,
the mines were in like really sick positions, and the goons just skirted them and defended perfectly. It was just nice.
One of the ideas that we were seeing at play back there was that most Protosses send all 3 Dragoons across the map. Now, I don't know if Reach just is so sick he instincted that out.
Also, just playing safe because he knows he's the better player. It's possible.
It's possible, yeah. Because one thing that I was wondering is, like, if the 3 Dragoons go across the map, and we saw Rain lose to Flash with that. Flash literally just planted mines and went in there and killed all the probes, and it's like, oh yeah, no, you're dead. This is it, you know.
Right.
The Dragoons will run back as the attack happens. They'll run through the mines. There's nothing there. And you do have a 2-factory turn that can push, but instead Rain stayed back, and that's the easiest way to counter that. Again, lots of cheeky, cheesy builds here in KSL.
Well, yeah, I think that's to be expected if you perceive yourself as the worst player.
Right. It's also like if you're on ladder, you play somebody, you get paired with somebody who's like 200 MMR lower than you. They're probably going to cheese you.
Ladder's different too, because I think a lot of people get to a certain level with cheeses. Like,
Correct.
Cheeses have a relatively high success rate for the amount of skill required to do them, to execute them.
Right.
And then once your MMR goes up to a point where it doesn't work anymore, you don't have the skills to play the other games, so you're just kind of shoeholed into playing that one style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I think that's not necessarily the case going on here. I think there's actually just mismatches in skill.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, well, it's funny because there's just things you'll encounter on ladder. Like, I'll give you an example, right? As a Protoss player, lower ranked Zergs are more likely to, or more percentage-wise, are more likely to Ling all in, or to rely on Lings and Hydras early on to end the game.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that top tier Zergs won't do that, but almost invariably, I will see people just really try to get Lings out and just try to end the game.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit easier to win that way
than to play out.
Than
like
to try to play out some kind of
Hydra,
macro game where they're using Dark Swarm with lurkers and plaguing my army, you know?
Right.
And oddly, I actually would prefer that they Ling all in me if I'm good enough to do it. You know what I mean? Because I know all I have to do is hold this off.
The defensive is a lot easier than
even though I think that PvC is the hardest early game in the game, in my opinion. I feel like there's just so much that Protoss has to deal with. I'm like, it's still probably better for me to just try to hold the Ling all in off and the Hydra all in off.
And sometimes even if you hold them off, you're still behind, depending on what kind of Ling or Hydra all in it is.
But usually on the lower tier ones, they're
lower
so
tier
all
ones
in.
For sure.
Good players will like make it look like they're doing that and then dial it back, and you're sitting there with too many cannons.
Good players are like, okay, I finally held this, and then I'm dead. You know what I mean? Because they just have like
this is just
3 bases. Yeah, this is pretty bad.
So this is one thing about pro gamers with their control is they can be so good at moving zealots and dragoons around. Now, in theory, this is not exactly how you want to rush because you want the zealot for micro purposes later on.
Right.
Oh, he had a bad rally there with those zealots.
Well, now he's
what was the opening here? This is a weird build. 3 zealots into...
Yeah, there's 1 gate, so...
This is a very odd build.
It's going to be a vulture.
One thing about, like, when I first got out here, one of the guys that was helping me get relocated here was a really good StarCraft player named Garimto, who actually was a caster for a while, but he was, like, one of the first best Protosses. And, like, I would watch him play, and he was, like, long done being a pro, but, like, you'd watch him play and be like, damn, this guy's sick.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's not using the same kind of builds. He's definitely got his own approach, which is probably was molded from a different meta, but it's like, no, this guy's really good.
Yeah, this shouldn't do much. This should get pushed back.
And one of the things that's funny about this build is you never see a third zealot of gas. You don't do that in this matchup.
Right.
And he also like zealot rushed into an expand here, which is kind of funny. The problem also might be for this Terran, besides I think the fact that this Terran seems to be a little bit nervous and seems to be like I want to just 2 factory, is whatever this guy is used to playing against, this Terran, like on ladder, Reach doesn't do it.
Right.
Reach has his own weird off-brand builds. I mean, this style looks old to me.
Reach's style?
Yes, it looks like an older build.
Well, I mean,
now let's see if he goes into Reaver here though. Because one thing that it seems like universally Protosses are really liking doing is just trying to get into Reaver.
Right. I mean, it seems like it looks like it's going to be Reaver. I mean, he's getting a shuttle.
Now, one thing to point out is that while this looks modern, there was a version of this that was very old in PvT as well. Where you get the Reaver out and you kind of fly around the map.
It's observatory.
Wait a minute, but he was getting a shuttle, right?
Yeah, he's getting a shuttle. I mean, maybe it's somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought I saw a shuttle making, but
he's definitely making a shuttle.
Well, he can get shuttle, observer, Reaver. Because in especially old StarCraft, it was very common to try to fly around and just Reaver drop spots.
Right.
It was kind of in the middle of StarCraft when people stopped doing this, and then they started doing it again, being like, wait a minute, no, this is still good.
Right. It's funny how you see things come in and out.
Yeah. Some of the things that were done very, very, very early on, people were saying was bad. It's like, wait a minute, no, this is actually good.
Some things are
4-pool
so
and
bad,
5-pool was one of them.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, oh, well, actually, sometimes this is good. So this is a lot of speed vultures. This is also, it seems like one of the odder 2-factory builds.
That is a lot of vultures.
Yeah, but it's not intended to.
As long as there's a dragoon
be a
blocked.
push.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, this is actually also one of the reasons why it's like, well, this won't just.
Yeah, this is not going to do anything. So even with an observer. Well, this has been shut down pretty hard. Where's the shuttle? Did he? I think he built it.
Yeah, he had to have.
Oh, yeah, it's sitting there.
It's
under
somewhere.
It's sitting underneath the UI. You can see it.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Next level casting. Didn't think you'd have to look under the UI.
Right. That's one of the funny things right now about Remastered. It's like kind of hard to
Move the
like,
camera.
move the camera. Yeah, it's I like what they did with it, but yeah, it's a little bit trickier. So he's again going to pick up the Dragoon with the shuttle. This is another kind of indicator of how old school he is. Is now it's just considered much better to have 2 Zealots.
Right.
And the Dragoon, he's just going to go with the Dragoon itself here. And he's going to see if he can drop here. Now this is going to be spotted by mines. The Vultures are going to be able to take out these eggs, which might give him access up there.
Yeah. He might be able to run by the wall off that's going up right now, but I think by the time that happens, he's going to have enough Dragoons to just deal with the Vultures. Although he is moving out.
Okay, he's coming up now. And, I mean, I wish we could actually get a better shot of the Terran space. I don't know what he has for defense here. I feel like this guy is a big Reach fan who's like observing this, like, because I just don't see what the tech is. I don't see like if there's any Goliaths. I don't think there is.
He's still working through these eggs. I think by the time he breaks through these eggs, there's going to be nothing to really,
Reach is being pretty smart. He knows that there's actually Vultures somewhere on the map. Oh, he sees it now. Okay.
Yeah, look at that. That's smart. Nice. Oh,
I don't know what the story is with this. I don't know what the story is with this.
Yeah, this shuttle actually hasn't done anything. Like, it didn't even poke the main. Oh, he might be able to do something here, though. There's a lot of SCVs.
Well, he got shuttle speed now, and so now he can, like, really take a fight. Oh, my God. Oh, he's going to go for the tank. Okay.
Yeah. That seemed like a bit of a misclick, honestly. Oh, it's even more damage here, possibly.
Oh, good shot. I didn't realize you could actually connect it through the minerals in between there.
Oh,
one of the problems when you drop behind mineral patches is you got to, like, oh, he has double shuttle. Mass shuttle's also been pretty good in StarCraft. Oh, this is just
now
like,
he's clowning on
this
him.
is all wrong. All right, I guess it's like one of these things where it's too much of a headache for him to try to come over there and take these island spots.
Yeah.
They never had maps like this back when Reach was top tier. So he's like, I'll just take the middle and dominate.
I mean, if he's in a position like he's in right now, it's a pretty good way to keep your lead. As long as he doesn't just get picked apart. But I don't see that happening. I don't see him getting picked apart in this game. Shuttles aren't doing that much, to be honest, though.
Well, the thing is that you can actually break pushes really easily. If you see players get speed shuttle, especially on this map, like getting 2 or 3 shuttles is actually pretty good. First of all, if they take the island, you just take it back from them, right? Because both Terran and Protoss kind of suffer from trying to fit important units into shuttles or drop ships. I mean, Dragoons and Reavers and tanks are all bulky. And so what he's going to do, this is like a mass, this is, originally was called the Bulldog Rush, and you have one shuttle with 4 Zealots in it, and you drop it on the tanks as the Dragoons run in.
Why do they call it the Bulldog Rush?
I don't know. I actually don't know. It's one of these weird things where it's like I say it, and if you say it online, like everybody knows what you're talking about. And so this is not the cleanest Bulldog, but he's basically just going to kill all the tanks. I mean, there's just not much you can do. The Dragoons then come in, and like there's just so much.
Yeah, there's so much stuff here. The trade's honestly not that bad for the Terran. Oh, and he is picking up some harassment in the middle base. But the fact that these trades are happening are really bad still. Okay, here we go. Now that tank is pretty dead.
Yeah, that I mean, I don't know if this is the end of the game, but it's very, very difficult to actually recover here. The problem is this Vulture. So many kills over here. It looks like it's finally going to be stopped.
I think if it wasn't for the Terran's pretty bad early game, he would have held that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Terran's kind of doing these odd, like this 2-fact game, like that's one of the more obsolete 2-factory builds. It's like Vulture, speed with mines. It's like, well, all we got to do is like
wall off.
Wall off, and I guess we're fine. And then like you have a Nexus, they don't have a command center yet. Ooh. But I mean, this other player, I mean, he also might be very old school as well. I mean, StarCraft is been such a big part of Korea's history that it's like you have generations now of StarCraft players.
Yeah.
And, you know, this guy also appears to be like somebody who was playing maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The Terran is here. But, you know, KSL's for everybody, so he might as well give it a shot. I mean, I don't blame him.
Was he another tank? Looks like he is. Should be able to get that out of there, too. Yeah. I mean, it's the beginning of the end. The middle base is still being fully saturated here. I mean, losing tanks with a low economy.
Yeah. I mean, this is... it's bad. I mean, Terran's not able to mine here in the main. Protoss is just... I mean, Protoss has got the center again. The harass is pretty good. You can see Reach is struggling a little bit with having coordinated attacks.
Yeah, he's just to ending the game. I mean, he clearly wants to.
Yeah.
He's just waiting for his opening.
It can be hard to kill Terrans sometimes, too. You know, if you don't have, like, observers over everything, sometimes a mine will go off. Or
yeah, even just attacking into siege tanks is quite hard, especially up ramps.
Oh, for sure. And so we need to see Reach just come up here and unload on top of these tanks. Here we go.
There he goes. I think even if he just pulls the shuttles out, he kills these tanks. It's always good. He can just do it again.
Yeah.
But it looks like he's just going to clean up.
This is the death blow here. This is too much. The last tank is going to be picked off over here behind the mineral patch. It does go down.
A lot of pressure on the natural. This should be it.
Yeah, and this is, there it is. GG. All right, so that was brutal.
Yeah.
That was a smashing.
That was a mismatch.
We keep getting PBTs,
sure.
by the way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is. So I don't really have a whole lot to say about that game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was very, very straightforward.
I mean, Reach played really well. I mean, he identified what was coming. He countered it with a pretty easy wall off. I mean, he even had Dragoons go over to, when he couldn't find the Vultures, he's like, where are they? You know? And he sends them over to the gases and defends his, like, run-by possibility.
How am I looking? Should I button this thing?
No.
This jacket's too
Do not button that
This
thing.
jacket's too small for me. I should not do that. Yeah, I mean, look, when you look at Reach's play, you can see he's a good player. I do not think he's going to survive much further in this tournament, though.
Yeah. Like he doesn't get eliminated immediately, but he's not a champion of the qualifier.
He's clearly a former pro. But this guy was really important a long time ago. He was a really, really good player. And it's cool to see him here competing in KSL. But if I had to make a guess, I'd say I don't know how much further along he can get.
Right.
You can see, like, for instance, especially on blockchain, he struggled with the fact that there were those odd islands on that map. Anyways, we're going to go into this next game. And this is going to be
player.
Yeah, a ZVT.
It's amazing.
All right.
ZVT is a really fun matchup as someone coming from StarCraft 2. It's so different and so intricate compared to StarCraft 2 where you're just like throwing units at each other for so long. Like, for those who are Brood War people and don't really watch StarCraft 2, StarCraft 2 is like literally you're just throwing units at each other the entire game. Like, that is what StarCraft 2 TVZ is, if it's not mech. But in Brood War, you can actually just be down like an insane amount of supply. You have these intricate tech switches like Plague and all these like spells are so important. It really doesn't happen the same way in StarCraft 2, so I really enjoy this matchup as a StarCraft 2 viewer.
This is a great matchup to watch, to cast, to play. So real quick here, Midas is Midas, you know, one of our great Terran players. Really prominent in, I guess, the middle era of StarCraft. Known, I guess, for the... Was he the one that did the fake double? Now I'm not sure about that. I know he used it. There was a whole... He had this opening, and some other players would use it too. I guess I mostly remember casting him doing it. This is when my casting career started. It was like when Midas was good. A long time ago.
I would have been like 12, so...
Yeah. And so he was like a player that... he was all around good. He had a lot of success in WCG. At the time he was good, there was something called the fake double, and it made it look like you were doing a 2-factory rush where you actually just made a command center behind it. You made the Protoss overexpand. It's not a build that works the same way anymore. And our Zerg player is NSP Byung-Soo. So, good player. I'd say Midas definitely the more famous player here.
Yeah.
So Midas, I know we were talking about Reach being old school. Midas is old school as well, but in a different way. he was like still, when StarCraft was much more mapped out. You know, we were into the macro games. We really understood operationally how the whole game kind of worked.
Efficiency and that kind of
Efficiency.
stuff.
I mean, Reach was much more of a pioneer. Like, he was the guy that was like, wait a minute. If I can just take more bases and make more Dragoons and Zealots.
Yeah, like theoretical StarCraft, right?
Right, and then other players come in and then iron that out. And this is actually not uncommon with RTS games, is you usually have a few guys who are totally brilliant and kind of see through the fog and the mist of the complexities of the game.
Like how to solve problems, that kind of stuff, right?
And then they can come out and, you know, really...
StarCraft is in such an interesting place now because there's so much information on how the game is played, and like races share problems like they never have before, if you know what I mean by that. Like, if a problem occurs, it occurs to everybody because it's so broadcasted, like it's so out there, that if something's abusable, it'll be abused by everybody.
Oh yeah.
And then the whole race as a whole has to deal with it. So there's like, it's like crowdsourcing problem solving, and eventually someone comes up with a problem and a problem to solve.
Yeah, it is fascinating with the internet the way it is, and streaming and online play. It's like things get sorted very quickly.
Yeah, like StarCraft without any broadcast would be such a different game. Like with really hard to get information and stuff, like hard if you had an abusable strategy, keeping it secret.
You know, what's funny is like when I was a kid, I mean, it was like kind of a question of like who had figured out that Koreans were the best and that this game was on TV out there at the time. I remember how much of a headache it was to try to find Korean VODs. I mean, it was like, and then of course, like, you know, I don't speak any Korean. I'm a 16-year-old kid, you know, trying to navigate a Korean webpage, and I know that the VODs are on there. You know what I mean? I'm like, and it's just a stick circle fight of Hangul that I'm looking at. I have no idea how to, and I'm like, okay, and then I'd find them and I'd bookmark it. My brother and me would sit down and be like, all right. I remember,
But I mean, even that would be insane. Like, imagine if that never existed. You guys would develop your own meta in a bubble, right?
Yeah.
And it would never compete with the Korean bubble. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could develop an entire meta with entire, like, responses and everything, and then once that's televised, it could be a completely different game.
Well, what was funny about it, too, was, like,
regions.
so you have, you know, if you were in Korea, it was so well connected. Everybody was able to communicate more about what, you know,
what's good, what's
is
bad.
good. That's why some of these, hold on a second.
We gotta run by.
Okay, so this is actually another build that is actually one of the older builds in the game here.
Yeah, this should
the
get
Vulture
cleaned up,
run by.
Ooh,
it's not going to do much of anything.
This is gonna get cleaned up completely. That's a lot of Zerglings, though. That is a lot of Zerglings.
Yeah, this is actually an all-in. I'm sorry, we were talking so much about meta stuff. This is actually a really, really technical all-in. So he does that Vulture run by. But Zerg's actually massed up a ton, and this is the Goliath build. We've seen that kind of has grown in popularity. You basically stay back and start to mass up Goliaths. Oh my god.
Okay, this is going to be annoying if he doesn't have a wall here.
This is, well, it's not a tight wall here. Now, SCVs and a bunker are still pretty good against Zerglings.
But he can just run by here and just be really annoying in the main base.
Well, there's going to be more Lings coming here. So, Zerg's going to try to end this immediately here by having mass Lings come in here, and then Hydras come in and gun everything down.
Yeah, this is going to be really hard to deal with on both fronts, though. He might get a surround on the bunker. He doesn't quite get it.
This
nice
SCV,
block,
fortunately, has got enough HP. It can't be killed off as easily as a probe trying to wall that entrance off. And so he's bought a little bit more time. Now, the Hydras are going to come here. Now, remember, there's just Goliaths right now.
Yeah.
You're sort of anticipating the Zerg going into Mutalisks, and the Goliaths kind of match that, and then you sort of bulk
getting
out.
an engineering bay and rushing it out. It's kind of funny because the Zerglings attack the engineering base. So it's almost like, don't get that up, you know? Like, I really don't want you to get turrets, but there's no mutas in sight.
Now, these speed Hydras are a real threat.
Yeah, this is going to be really hard to deal with.
Hydras are terrible against bunkers. But Lings and Hydras might be a different story.
Yeah, it is a different story.
The problem is the bunker is sort of the natural defense against Hydras as it is.
Right.
And when siege tanks and siege modes come in, siege tanks and siege mode come into play, then we're in for a world of hurt here for the Zerg, because
it's just a bait to get the racks to lift off and, like, you know, like this.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's
like,
he's just sort of hoping like
he's
he
like,
comes
oh,
out.
I misrallied an Overlord. Oh no.
Yeah, I remember the first time somebody did that to me in StarCraft. They have like an overlord around there, and I'm like, an overlord. And I walk my Marines down, and Lings come get me, and I'm like, whoa, he tricked me. So he's torn down these depots, and actually these SCVs are not being assembled quick enough.
Oh, this is going to be
And
really
here
hard
come
to
the
deal
Lings. There's a lot of SCVs over here.
Oh my god, siege mode finishing just in time though.
Okay, these Lings are not quite, somehow.
We're not even really
It's like
doing
the
anything.
perfect placement of SCVs. Somehow every SCV is just slightly body blocking the...
Yeah, that was destroyed.
Now
I thought
Midas
that would be a
knows
lot
the longer
closer.
this game goes on, the better position he's going to be in here.
Yeah, he's in a really good spot now. He just needs to hold on.
I don't even know that there's a layer coming here.
Yeah.
And again, siege tanks can drive the Hydras away. Bunkers are just too hard to kill with Hydras.
Yeah, even Goliaths are doing so much damage. I mean, look at this
Oh
stuff.
my
It just
God.
disappears.
Does he just tap out? Is that what he does?
Yeah, I don't think you can lose all these Hydras and Lings. It's also like really low tech. Yeah, there's no layer.
Yeah, yeah. This is bad, man. I mean, mech actually will be tier 1 Zerg over time. It just, the reason why tier 1 Zerg can be scary, like Lings with speed and Hydras with speed, is because the mech player hasn't gotten enough mech units yet. So, I mean, Zerg may tap out. Zerg may try to make the game go on, but right now it's like we're seeing one player who's clearly historically better already take out a massive lead.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, and the way he did it too, like it was just masterful defense. It wasn't like...
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he just played well. like, it's this is gonna be really hard for the Zerg player to actually come back. I don't really see much going for him.
Well, I just don't know what he wants to do from here. I mean, Terran has basically survived all of the possible killing blows that could have come here from Zerg. So, again, Terran kind of goes back to the initial plan. Get Goliaths, get tanks, power up.
Right.
And we're going to have a push coming here. Zerg does not even have a third base. The tech that he invested in is obsolete now.
Yeah, and there's no plan for a third base either.
Well, it's going to be this one in the
there it
upper
is.
right here. But, I mean, it's...
I mean, like, what do you go into? Because you can't really go into Spire
Well.
here, because he's already got Goliaths and turrets.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't think he was even mining from his second gas, excuse me. So it's like...
Yeah, so what do you go into?
I mean, well, you're basically doomed. I mean, this is a Zerg at 48 supply. Terran's at 76 now. An explosion of factories is coming down here.
Yeah.
I mean, Terran will probably be able to win fights without even using siege mode.
I think the Terran's probably just going to do a big push and take a third behind it, and he's just going to die to the push.
Yeah, I think Terran just in a little bit here. It depends on how conservative Midas wants to be, but he's got 5 factories here. He's not going to get a third base up anytime soon. I think he's just going to come across the map and just roll him. And this is sort of what we expected for today's games here. Is this
some mismatches, right?
Right. Well, when you're really low in the brackets, sometimes
if
you got a
anyone can
monster
sign
like
up.
Midas, who's just tearing his way further and further along here. Midas looking good, by the way, but it's hard to really get a good
Gauge it,
measurement of his actual skill here, because it's like, now here's one funny thing. These Lings and Hydras are going to get into the main here. I think Midas also maybe not as comfortable on this map.
Yeah. I mean, not to have a depot or anything here is a little bit of a mistake, I think.
Yeah,
especially because he's forwarded everything. Like, what could you possibly die or be harassed by?
Yeah.
And it's this. Like, this is the only thing.
Thing is I just feel like this is still not enough to this Terran army is too good. He'll just go across the map and kill him.
It's possible the rallying units could actually deal with this.
Yeah, yeah. It's like just enough that it's kind of scary for the Terran, but I mean the elephant in the room is the supply here for Terran.
If the Terran player turned around, though, that would be a huge win for the Zerg.
He might turn around.
That would be a huge win, I think. I mean, it's such a small amount of units, and it's base. Yeah, look, the Terran is turning around. This is a great thing, then, because even if he loses this army, he's bought so much time. I mean, this is better than anything he could have possibly imagined.
The problem is, look, it's the Goliaths alone are still going to win the fight. I mean, it's just too strong. And the thing is, again, Terran's just going to push out. I think that Midas, this is, he could have prevented this very easily. He didn't.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter anyways. And there's lots of Hydras being massed out, but this mech army has better upgrades. There's so many tanks here with this.
This is smart by the Zerg. I mean, this is basically the only thing you can do. Like,
right.
There's nothing left.
You should probably just shoot down that bunker, to be honest.
You should.
This is painful to watch those units try to get out.
Yeah, I like the moves by the Zerg because it's like the couple ways you can come back is by constantly run buying and pulling the Terran back or pulling the Terran out. But I mean, there's just so much here. Even if he leaves these
I think he can
Goliaths-
actually attack out and defend.
Yeah, he can certainly do it. I think he could defend this entire army with the units he's left there.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's nothing much at home because it's all on the map.
So these Hydras are going to try to come in there again.
Ooh.
Oh, he's just an eye shot away from being by this Zerg army. And again, you can see, look at this.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
just
this
no
is
way.
Way too much. It's not even close. And he's continuing forward with the rest of the army. Oh, looks like they just saw each other. Yeah. So, this is the beginning of the end. I mean, he's going to get squished out eventually. As soon as his army goes forward.
You know,
his Hydras fall off so fast against mech. Like,
well,
when they don't
especially
have the
siege
support.
tank shots. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, this is why Dark Swarm is the most profound ability in this matchup. Is just like,
I mean, even
everything Terran has is ranged.
yeah, watch this. The siege is up. I think this is basically the best fight you could possibly have as a Zerg player, but it's not going
it's
well.
Just, it's just too much here.
Yeah, that was. I don't think you could ask for a better fight without Defilers. I mean, that was a full surround.
Yeah, no, I mean, Terran's just going to come in here and smash this. And I think Zerg had some good ideas at the start, but I mean, he holds it off. And so I would imagine he taps out here, right?
Right.
Look at these, like, doesn't even have to siege if he doesn't want to.
I mean, this is just enough Goliaths.
GG. So, Midas winning his match. Very cool stuff.
Right.
That all in has no, there's no plan B really. When you don't have a layer, when you don't have other bases, basically if you don't have a layer, you invested all your money into Lings.
No third or anything. It's
And
just
Hydras.
3 base, low layer.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
3 hatch, no layer.
Now, if you do the damage early on, sometimes the Terran just straight up dies there.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of
Snowballs out of
crazy.
control. Like with the
Yeah.
Lings do well, and then all of a sudden you have a Hydra Ling bus. It's just punch after punch.
Zergs so often are going muta that, you know, the Goliaths directly stop the efficiency of the mutas, and if you're doing that build right, you basically outpace them.
Right.
Your Goliaths become stronger than their mutas, and then with a few tanks, you can just push out on the map. So some Zergs will try to go Ling Hydra to just punish the Terran, because Goliaths are terrible against Ling Hydra, especially in small numbers, if the Goliaths are in small numbers. So what we saw there was an attempt to do damage. Midas just handled it very well. You know, when you see the Wallen go up, it's like, Lings are not as good anymore.
And he has a full idea of what's going on, too. Like, when you see that wall, and he's like, okay, I know exactly what's coming.
Right. And the Hydras are not that surprising when you see that many Lings.
Yeah.
They can still be going for layer, but it's not the craziest thing ever. And, of course, when you get siege mode up, that's it.
Yeah. There's nothing you can get in range of the tanks.
Yeah. We're going to go into a game, I believe. All right, we're going to go to the next game. Let's go to that game now. Or in a minute.
Soon.
Anytime.
We're going to a game
Anytime. So I think that's all we're going to have for that series.
Yeah.
I believe we're going to go into another series now.
Did we do one game of that series?
We did, yeah. But I believe we're just going to have that one.
Cool.
Unless something changes. So, yeah, again, like we've kind of been following this scene, this theme here of just mismatches, right? Because we're early on in the brackets here. These guys are not at the same tier. But as we get further and further along here in KSL, the games are probably going to get closer and closer and better and better. But it's good to see. I think for educational purposes, it helps a lot to see what these players are doing that doesn't quite work,
right?
Or where the flaws are in the build. Because in some ways, this can actually be more educational than a top-tier pro game, because sometimes the pros are playing so perfectly, you don't see these obvious flaws.
Well, yeah, and you can't execute or emulate Flash all the time, you know?
Right. I mean, you know, you can watch Flash play, but it's almost like you need to watch him play, but then also watch a bunch of people who are not as good as him play, and when they don't succeed, try to see what was different about it.
Right.
Then,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree 100%. Like, it's... Yeah, we don't really have to elaborate on it. It makes
it's
total
just like,
sense.
Yeah, I mean,
like you can't emulate Flash, but you can see his thought process on it against players that are worse than him. I mean, even all these games, like, it makes sense from the mismatched player as well. Like, we're seeing a lot of cheeses, but it actually makes sense.
It's like in
Like,
StarCraft 2
logically.
as well. Like when you look at Cyril's play or Dark's play,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, well he didn't seem to have any problems with anything. I don't understand. How do I do that? And then it's like
Right.
you just take a few steps back on the Zerg chain,
Yep.
and then even a few steps further than that, and see what their games look like. And then you can almost see, okay, here's what you need to do. Because when you have somebody playing perfectly, the information can be so overwhelming.
Yeah, I think if I was an amateur, I would not link replays or I would not link replays of Cyril to an amateur and expect them to emulate that, but maybe someone in between Cyril, like maybe a Master League or a Diamond League player. Because
I'd say just even like a high Masters League player in
yeah,
Cyril. It's like okay,
that's something you can emulate. You obviously can't emulate Cyril, otherwise we'd all be Cyril. Like,
right.
It's way deeper than that.
So let me check on our information sheet here. Who's? Hold on a second. We're on the next page here. Okay, so let me see if these IDs are significant players. Hold on, guys. Sit tight.
Sure. Sometimes wish I was around in the generation of like early Brood War, because I feel like it was very similar to early StarCraft 2, but I just completely missed it with my age.
Oh yeah, well the thing about it though is it's not too late to start. I mean, it's not too late to start playing StarCraft 2 either.
Oh, it's actually just a different game now too, though.
Right, very true.
Like early StarCraft is actually different than late StarCraft. They're different games.
So this game is so much more figured out
Yeah.
now. Now I want to point out here the Protoss player. If you're a StarCraft 2 player, you probably know him better as Oz.
Oh, really?
And if you're a StarCraft 1 player, it'd be Secret. But I'll be referring to him as Oz here because I've
Yeah,
casted Oz's games, and that's going to be easier for my brain.
that's very cool.
And then let me see here. The other player is a relative unknown, apparently.
All right, well, let's see what
according to
Oz
the
can
information
do.
I have been given. So,
Oz, if for people who don't know in StarCraft 2, he actually was quite good. He was one of the best Protosses. He played on FXO, I remember.
very crazy Protoss, too.
Yeah, he was really good. I think he was one of the more underrated Protosses back in the
Sure,
day,
yeah.
too.
Oh my God, he lost the Overlord. Oh, that's so funny. That's like the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah,
So-
that's not good.
Out of all the matchups, the early game here is if you're trying to learn the game, this is the hardest to map because to get a fast expansion up
Right.
and hold off all the stuff that Zerg can do is so hard.
It's intricate.
It's so technical.
Yeah.
Now I actually think late game is actually a lot easier though for the Protoss.
Once you stabilize, you're not worried about
Once
these
you
little
have
tricks.
once you have observers up, you've got your 8 gateways or whatever up. You're
Yeah.
taking your third. Things start to get more straightforward. So I'm not going to decry imbalance here or something like that. It's just sort of the nature of the way this matchup works. Protoss has historically figured out very late in the game that you can fast expand. We saw, I think even the first time I saw fast expand, I think it was Skelton, this really old school player, but it looked like a gimmick, like it didn't stay
Right.
for a long time. There was actually periods where people wouldn't want to play with you if you fast expanded because they thought it was like
It's gimmicky?
it looked like a cheese. Yeah, they'd be like, "Well, what are you
That's
doing?
funny.
You just took a Nexus."
That makes a lot of sense too, though.
Yeah, because
That's
everybody
funny.
would Zealot rush at the start. Is he just still making speedlings? All right, so this is
The probe is attacking the pylon.
a story as old as PVZ. All right, so let me explain what's happened there. Getting a Wallen up is so difficult until you're a pro. Like for those of you guys who are playing Protoss and you're on the ladder, you've probably experienced this. A lot of the games, and we'll see it at the pro level too sometimes, people just die before they're able to get much more than a Corsair out.
Right.
You know, the rushes are so hard to hold. But top tier Protosses are good at that. And so this guy's thinking, oh my God, I'm against Oz. I can't play him in a macro game. If I make Lings, maybe I can take him out.
Yeah.
And it just like doesn't.
I think this will be the theme for the entire first group of games.
Right,
Like
right.
the very beginning of the practice. Like I said, it literally doesn't make sense if you're just like, I'm gonna play a normal game. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Like if there's a huge mismatch, that actually does not make sense. Like
Yes,
you're not
yes.
going to beat someone who's considerably better than you by playing a normal game. That is how they are there.
And so, this time around, Oz just went for a very safe way of playing the game. All the colors right now are
It's hard.
killing me
It's
here.
hard.
So we have Protoss that's a black color
Yeah.
against a sewer green.
A sewer green. Is that like?
So this is like some kind of map where you can have not the normal colors. But this is going to be hard for me to follow the mini map here with this Protoss. But okay. What was I going to say? I mean, yeah, basically Zergs want to try to rush a lot against good Protosses. It's hard. It's hard because Zerglings are basically better than Zealots early on. They are faster, and they are actually one of the best units as far as control goes.
Right.
I mean, Terran had the same problem against Zerglings early on. Like, you watch Marines fight Zerglings, it's like...
It's bad.
It's
comically
unreal.
bad, yeah.
And then Zerglings with speed are just ridiculous.
Right.
Speedlings are maybe one of the strongest things in all of StarCraft 2. Because it's very easy to surround. And then, of course, when you have speedlings, you can kill zealots before they can, unless they can wedge themselves behind, minerals and stuff like that.
I actually like that because it actually makes positioning so important. Like, let's
Right.
say Zealots just straight up fought Zerglings and won. The game would become way less dynamic.
This is actually the big melee thing in StarCraft 1. This and Zerg vs. Zerg. Is the early game is microing units with
So
melee
dynamic.
abilities, which is very different than microing ranged units.
Yeah.
Or range versus range units. So, basically, when they have speedlings as well, one of the other problems is that they can then kill your scouting probe. And if they kill your scouting probe, then you don't know if they're going to Hydra bust you,
Right.
or if they're going to do something else. And so, you have another situation that you're being faced with here. And so, Protosses have to skirt the line very carefully, because let's say that you over-defend.
Right.
You get 4 or 5 cannons over here, and they've only made those 4lings and are macroing up.
Yeah.
A cannon is the same amount as a gateway.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're just crippling yourself.
Yeah, and you're not
in the
advancing.
same way if he's Hydra busting you and you're don't
Yeah.
have any cannons, you're just dead.
Yeah, and I'm like, here's comes my Templar Archives, and then yeah.
Oh, that was cute.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool little micro technique where you pop out on your side and you're like, I'm all right. And then you can use your mineral patches like at the upper right to like make
Go
a mine back through.
Yeah. The Zerglings are just sitting there like, well.
This is annoying.
Yeah.
So, Zerg is again going to avoid standard play.
Right.
It is 2 hatch layer.
No, that's a decent amount of Zerglings, a respectable amount, I would say.
Is he going to go for just a flock? No,
As
it's
a
got to be
flock.
flying to be a flock.
Well, they have wings, don't they? Metabolic
Not in
boosts?
StarCraft 1. StarCraft 2, they got wings.
Oh, really?
Wings.
That's interesting. Okay, so it's not.
Would
a
you
flock.
really, if there was a bunch of dodos on the ground, would you say a flock of dodos?
Yeah, it is a flock, right?
I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't like
It's
it,
a bird.
man.
I think it's a flock. Is it a flock? Didn't
Oh,
dinosaurs? No, it's a Hydra den. Is this gonna be lurkers?
I don't know. I'm actually not sure. This is generally just not a build people really do. So let's see. It could be for a lurker drop. It could be he could still be going for Spire and just wants to make sure that he doesn't have. He has just like a Hydra or 2 to defend Overlords.
That would be the worst thing ever, though. Too.
Yeah,
Like,
this just looks really bad. Well, the thing is, you can go 3 hatch Muta, so it's like,
yeah.
all right. It could be for a drop. Now, see how the Zealots came out here? Part of what's happening here is he's trying to figure out what the hell is going on the map. Because he doesn't see a 3rd base.
I feel like the Observer's also trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, he's getting Hydra upgrades.
What?
I have no idea what's going on.
What?
I don't know. He's gonna do a 2-base Hydra Ling bust with the range. Is that the plan?
I don't know. I don't understand what this is. This is actually just not a thing.
I mean, he's going Corsairs, so maybe. I mean, there's
this is
no
like
way,
not
right?
even a build.
Is there even a way? Nah, there's no way. He scouts everything. He scouts literally everything too.
You know how, like, if you were to drink a bottle of rubbing alcohol, you'd probably go blind? This build, I think, can also possibly make me go blind. Like, there's actually very high risk here, because, like, this doesn't even...
Yeah.
This is, like, not even, like, a thing.
I mean, this probe,
This
too,
is
it's got
like-
full vision of everything.
Flat Earth theory of build. Like, I don't even know what to say. Hold on.
We're pretty deep on the
Now-
conspiracies.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope
he went 2 hatchery, went into layer, and then he got Hydra range.
and he's doing 2-base Hydra.
And did he get Hydra speed here? Looks like the Hydras are still slow.
No, he didn't get Hydra speed.
Well, I guess what he wants to do, I guess the idea is he has Overlord speed. He gets a bunch of Hydras, he busts down the wall, and DTs can't save the day.
Right.
Except that there's no DTs here.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe this can do something. I mean,
I think this Reaver's really
actually, I
scared,
guess
though.
maybe I should be. Thing is, Hydras without speed, it's much harder to bust stuff down. Hydras with range can take out the gateway and the pylon and the forge, but you kind of almost need to have speed. I'm sorry, was he getting speed here?
I feel like he's going to do a drop, right? I don't know what these overloads
Well,
are for otherwise.
The problem is that you would need speed and drop to do this.
I know,
Because
it
it's
doesn't
like
make any
they're
sense,
just
but,
Corsairs. Like Corsairs are actually very good at fighting drops. Reaver is more the
Nice getting
norm
Hydra
than getting a Citadel on this map, and so he's got a Reaver out now. And Reavers are actually good against the Zerg dropping. You know, the Zerg unloads. These Overlords tend to bunch up.
Oh my god. Without speed, I don't know
So,
what he's going to do here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. This is going to have to do something, and everything that I see here tells me that it can't do much of anything.
Oh, he's
Oh
going
my
to
god, he's just
Overlords.
going to kill the Overlords now? All right.
I don't know the theory behind this build. You know what I mean?
Well, this is just
Like usually when you see a cheese, you're like, okay, in theory, this all makes sense, right?
And I mean, guys, I'm not trying to condemn this player for the strategy. I want to point out, like, this is not something you even want to try. Because it's not a good strategy. As someone here to inform you about the game, I'm sort of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't try this one at home, kids. The Protoss in black look really cool.
Yeah, they do.
So,
Okay,
that's it. GG.
Doesn't even really try it.
That was a
Oz looks good.
that was a rough game. Well, Oz looks fine, but I mean, it's one of those games where it's like, I really wanted to see more of like what Oz would actually try
Right.
to do, and we're gonna have to wait until there's
It's
somebody
hard to
who.
gauge skill if the games end like that.
Well, the reason why the builds that we tend to see players use that work, the reason why we see them so often is they will stop stuff like that. You're not.
Yeah.
That it's not just that fast expand with cannons, getting a Corsair will be able to handle a lot of the straight up play, like 6-hatch Hydra play. Let's say a Muta all in, a Zerg taking another natural and turtling, and then it can respond to those. It's that it's also answered about 20 other weird builds that don't make a lot of sense.
Right.
For instance, that build will also stop a quick lurker drop on 2-base, which was one of the things I thought might happen because I was trying to figure out what the build was.
I mean, that makes sense, yeah.
It does stop a range Hydra, speed Hydra 2-base drop. You know what I'm saying? It stops a lot of
right.
other stuff as well, and it's almost impossible to make it work. Yeah, I mean, so it's just it shows you why people are doing the builds they're doing to answer stuff like that too. Are we gonna go to a commercial here?
I think so. Yeah. Pretty sure we're going to a commercial.
I think so. All right, guys, we're going to a short break. When we come back, we continue on here at the KSL. Don't go away.
네, 이에 맞서는 송병구 선수입니다.
네, 송병구 선수나 도적 선수나 긴장되기는 매한가지.
그래서 프로브까지 잡아내고요. 자, 이렇게 되면은 더블이면서 2등은 이득대로, 그리고 리버가 약간 타이밍이 늦었습니다.
네.
도지혁.
그리고 도적 선수의 빌드 자체가 더블만 배제한 빌드예요.
오.
그러니까 뭐 다크 빠른 거,
네.
상대방의 리버 뭐 나보다 약간 더 빠르게 오는 거. 왜요? 그게 오는 순간엔 나도 리버가 나오긴 하니까 막을 수 있고. 모든 것을 다 막을 수 있는 빌드를 쓴 건데
네.
이게 문제가 된 거예요.
그렇죠.
근데 상대방은 아니 앞마당에서 자원을 파고 있는데 캐고 있는데 드라군으로 압박을 넣어서 이득을 봤다.
와.
이거 말이 안 되는 거죠?
네.
그리고 이게 송병구 선수가 압박하면서 리버도 확인했고, 이거 그러면 멀티 타이밍도 없고 이제 리버 투리버 때 오겠다.
오죠.
그러니까 이런 것을 눈으로 직접 확인했기 때문에 도재욱 선수 이거 정말 큰 대위기입니다.
성광을 쌓고 있습니다. 지금
네.
송병구 선수.
이게
예.
어차피 파일런으로 지금 송병구 선수가 바리케이트 쳐놓은 거 보세요. 실제 바리케이트는 아니지만
시야 확보.
이 시야포를
시야포.
완벽하게 놓으면서
네.
예, 정면 지역에서 이건 드라군으로 힘 한번 쓰겠다는 거예요. 즉 센터 지역부터 약간 질럿 드라군 시간을 벌잖아요. 그럼 리버 상대방이 도적 선수가 2개 태워서 오는 순간에 리버가 나와요. 근데 가만히 앞마당에서만 지키고 있으면 투리버에 뚫릴 가능성이 있겠죠.
네.
하지만 나가 있을 겁니다. 오늘.
네. 자, 이런 식으로 해서 이 송병구 선수가 굉장히 예리하게 준비를 했어요. 자, 이세는 이 도재욱 선수의 노림수가 들어가야 될 텐데.
이걸 무조건 끝내야 돼요.
예.
이게 지금
와,
드라군
드라곤이 왜 이렇게 많죠?
네, 드라군 숫자가 지금 너무 압도적이라서
이거
이제
대화가
인구 차이도 너무 벌어졌고
이거 질럿 저거 3개 밀어놓잖아요. 리버가 쏘는 거 그냥 맞아주면 돼요.
예.
자 리버 나왔어요.
리버
예.
원리버 나왔죠. 이러면 투리버도 찍혀 있는 상황이고.
이거 도재욱 선수 어쩔 수 없이 지금 멀티 가져가는데 상황 자체가 이거 그렇다면은 상대 풀어보고 빼게 하면서 굉장히 좀 흔들어줘야 되는데
이걸 보고 들어간다고요? 너무 극단적인 상황이라
자, 일단 들어가 봅니다. 본격적으로 도재욱 선수가 들어가는데요.
네.
빨리 이동하고 있는 프로보.
결국은 좋은 판단.
예.
여기서는 그냥 가만히 있으면 진다라는 생각을 했던 거죠.
네.
자 이거 근데 역으로
송병구!
같이 들어왔어.
아니 왜 이렇게 잘하죠?
예.
오.
주고 받는데요.
네, 이렇게 되면 트리버까지 나오면서
예.
도재욱 선수는 이거 말이 안 될 정도로 불리한 그런 상황입니다.
아니 도재욱이 송병구를 지금 유일하게 앞서는 단 하나는 리버 한 개가 더 많다라는 거.
맞아,
네.
그거 하나.
하지만 그 리버가 사실 정면 싸움이 아니고 이렇게 견제할 때는 한 개도 두 개도 필요가 없잖아요.
자, 그래서 정면 한번
어.
뚫어볼 심사인데요.
드라군 짜이!
자, 이거 조심해야 돼요. 넓게 포진되어 있는 거는 송병구입니다.
이거는 이렇게 맞아주면 싸워도
물량 압도적이에요.
그렇죠.
자, 여기는 셔틀 위험해요. 셔틀 위험해요.
안 돼요, 이거 안 돼요.
자,
와.
셔틀 잡혔고요.
앞쪽에 리버 그 앞쪽에 셔틀 깨기 위해서 드라군 하나
와, 이게-
전진 배치하면서
아니, 오늘도 송병구인가요?
그러면 GG. 자, 그리고 송병구 선수인데요.
시작했죠.
시작했습니다. 와, 이거
네,
판짝이죠.
이게
예.
이런 게 말 그대로 판짝인데 이게
네.
전진 게이트.
와 이거 진짜 이거 장하면
이게 이런 거예요. 완전히 지금 스타에 대한 나름 새로운 깨달음을 제가 볼 때는 좀 얻은 것 같아요.
여기서 이 리버가 변수를 만들고 있는 거예요.
자 이거 송병구는 리버까지만 딱 잡고
이렇게 되면은 그나마 있는 희망도 없어집니다.
리버가 잡히긴 했으니까요.
네 이렇게 되면은 결국 물량전으로 뭔가 승부를 조합이 서로 깨진 상태에서는 봐야 되는데
네.
자원 잘 먹고 있는 건 송병구 인구수 뭔가 피해 입은 것 없는 것도 송병구 그러다 보면은 결국 이 송병구 선수의 이 상황 자체가 더 좋아질 수밖에 없는 거죠.
맞습니다. 이제 공격 타이밍에 게임 끝내러 가겠죠. 아니 도대체 어떤 일이 있었나요? 송병구 선수.
예.
정말 그
각성.
제대로 진 각성을 하면서
네.
나이에 숨지 않겠다.
예.
나이 뒤에 숨지 않겠다. 뭐 지는 것에 핑계를 나이 뒤에 자꾸 숨는. 나이 먹다 보면 그렇게 되잖아요, 사람이.
그렇죠.
게임 못하는 거 핑계 찾고.
예.
이거 큰일 났는데요, 도지혁 선수.
오히려 노련미가 더 생겼습니다.
네, 노련미뿐만이 아니라 거기 피지컬이 좀 더해지면서
예.
실력이 너무 좋아졌어요.
탄탄해요. 굉장히 경기력이 튼튼탄탄합니다.
그러니까 사실
네.
원래 되게 운영 잘하는 선수였는데 어떻게 보면은 뭔가 안전하게 좀 플레이 스타일을 하다 보니까 그런 부분들이 좀 어느 정도 시간이 지나면서 단점이 됐던 것 같아요. 근데 지금 송병구 선수는 뭔가 초심으로 돌아가서 필요한 부분들.
그렇죠. 지금 타이밍도 이제 완전히 또 공격도 끝났으니까 말씀하신 대로 필요한 부분 가지고 지금 다 가져왔으니까 저 공격 들어가면 돼요. 네. 제2멀티의 스톤만 지져도 도재혁 선수는 마음이 타 들어가죠.
그렇죠.
나오는데요.
그러니까 이것도
예.
멀티를 지금 송병구 선수가 하면서
반응 좋아요. 반응 좋아요, 도재혁.
굉장히 빨라요. 굉장히 빨라요.
근데 이것 자체가 태우고 가버리면 우와, 왜 이득 보는 거예요, 송병구 선수가.
네. 자, 시선을 끌어줬고 그럼 본대의 움직임 어떻게 달라질까?
아.
일단 모아두고 있습니다.
아니 찌르면서 그러니까
예.
도재욱 선수의 약점을 송병구 선수가 너무 잘 알고 있고
맞아요.
뭔가 요리조리 항상 빠져나갈 구멍을 만들어놓은 상태로 이 송병구 선수가 병력을 움직이다 보니까 도재욱 선수가 뭔가 크게 변수를 만들어낼 게 없어요.
네, 그러니까 프로토스를 잘한다는 걸 알아요. 그러니까 상대방의 단점에 대해서 그나마 좀 찾아보자면 약간 무난하게 한다. 이런 것을 이용을 해서 아예 대도제욱전의 판을 완벽하게 짜왔습니다.
더 들어가요. 이번에는 좀 늦나요? 자, 이번에도 빨랐습니다. 도재요.
네.
아니, 이거 자체가 피해.
맞아요. 지금 와 이런 찌르기를 통해서 본인은 멀티도 앞서
해봐.
만들어놨고.
이러면 게이트웨이가
네.
계속 늘어나요.
예.
회전력에서 말도 안 되는
와.
정도 차이. 아 셔틀.
셔틀.
아 이렇게 느리게 리버가 내리게 되면 결국은 바로 이 싸움 이길 수가 없습니다.
네.
그쵸, 말씀하신 대로 리버가 먼저 질럿을 녹여줘야 되거든요.
그렇죠. 아 근데 본인들이 이렇게 되면 녹거든요.
네. 자 리버 쪽에 스톱 떨어지고요.
아.
배우면서 플레이.
송병구는 지금 상대 약점을 잘 알고 있어요.
예.
결국 이렇게 소모하면서
와.
자원력을
막싸운데요.
앞세우면은 송병구가 이긴다라는
아
거죠.
그냥 어택당 찍고
예.
게이트웨이 늘려주면서 그냥 ZZZ만 눌러도
네.
이거 상황 다 만들었습니다.
자 지금 많이 잡았고요. CJ. 먼저 도재욱 선수입니다. 이에 맞서는 송병구 선수입니다. 전장은 투혼입니다.
네. 뭐 국민 상황 정도까지는 손병호 선수가 조금 실수해주면 나와요.
네.
조금 실수해주면. 근데 이럴 때 문제가 저 질러 몇 개 섞여 있는 것 때문에 이거 어택을 찍기가 매우 어려워집니다.
네. 질러 섞어주면서 조합을 이루고 있고요. 자 지금 도재욱 선수 내려가 봅니다.
아니 이거 진짜 인생 걸고 이거 컨트롤 해야 돼요. 마지막 기회입니다. 리버 3개? 글쎄요. 3개까지 타이밍이 될지는 모르겠는데 이거 마지막입니다.
자 모든 걸 일단 다 걸어요. 도재욱 선수.
가야 돼요. 이거 하나는 잘라야
잡아낼
돼요.
수 있어요.
도저히
일단.
잘라야 돼요.
자, 이런 거 송병구 선수가 어쨌든 좀 숨겨놨다가 뭐 양쪽에서 좀 덮치는 이런 상황을 좀 만들려고 했던 거.
오!
자 잘 들었어요. 잘
본진!
들었어요.
본진!
자 잘 피해서 들어갑니다.
소리바 사질럿?
자, 이거 들어가서 프로브도 잡아주면서.
네.
자 위에 올려놨고요.
자,
병력을
이 게이트 칠 게 아니거든요.
네.
아 프로붙죠.
리버! 못 잡았고?
자못 잡았어요.
이게
그러니까 이게-
양방향으로 지금 저글링 뮤탈하듯이 하는 건데 아 이거 안 돼요. 좀 쉽지 않습니다.
자 그래서 본대는 중앙쪽.
본진 일꾼 털어야 돼요.
아, 이거.
마이 갓!
도재욱의 희망이.
셔틀이
아.
터졌습니다.
아니 오늘 피지컬이 송명호 선수가
네.
아 저는 정말로 한 2007, 8년에 제가 중계했잖아요.
예.
아니 그때 그 시절 송명호 보는 것 같아요.
아
과장이
완전
아니라.
살아났어요.
아니 리버 본진에 오고 결국 프로브 빼고 앞바닥에 있는 드라곤만 잡으면 되는 거 아니겠습니까?
저거 어떻게 잡았죠?
아 송명구 그리고 도재욱 선수 너무 아쉬운데요.
네. 자
그래도-
리버 하나로 리버 하나 그래도
여기서 병력 이득이라도 봐야죠.
네. 최대한
아.
컨트롤 해줘야 됩니다.
정말
하지만 병력 많아요. 또.
눈물겹게 리버 컨트롤을
와.
해봅니다만은.
아니 이러면 송명구 선수가 9연승하면서
예.
4강 가서 지금 기다리는 걸 가장 먼저 4강 가는 겁니다.
자 그래도 한번 여기 돌아와 봅니다.
네. 일꾼 한 방에 한 8개씩 터져버려야 돼요.
하지만 많은 피해를 주진 못했습니다.
아, 이거 오히려 송병구 선수가
들어가죠.
압박하면서
오.
이거 도재욱 선수의 이런 뭐 병력을 한 번씩 끊어줄 수 있는 그런 상황이고 이거 리버까지 끌고 와서
아니 이게 지금 이 정도면 굳히게 들어가도 되는데
네.
끊임없이 상대방의 병력 숫자를 보면서 두드려요. 그러니까 도재욱 선수가 멀티도 할 수가 없고 인구수도 못 늘어나고 아 정말 큰일 났습니다.
자 리버 두 개 이번에는 송병구의 리버. 자 리버 도망가야죠.
또 겁주죠?
아,
받는 거리 슬쩍.
그러니까 지금 병력 상황 자체가 이거 셔틀 그냥 컨트롤하려다가 도재욱 선수가 공중 폭사 시켜도 사실 장담하기 어려운
맞아요.
그런 상황이에요.
저 트리버를 잃어도 돼요. 근데 이렇게 입골 쪼여놓으면 송병구 선수를 4강으로 데려갈 수 있는 아둔과 템플러 어카이브 그리고 템플러가 나오기 때문에
네.
아니 일꾼 한 방에 빵빵 터트려줘야 돼요 이거.
그래서 이게 일단 돌아 들어가는데요. 좀 이득을
아,
많이
이거 보고-
봐야겠습니다.
뒤쪽에 살짝 내릴 수 없나요? 피해 줘야 되는데요 여기 파일럿 저쪽에.
자, 이거 무조건 피해 주면서
무조건 해야 돼요. 아 또 내려왔어요.
이거 또 살아야 되고요. 그리고
그렇죠. 그게 제일 중요하죠.
아,
자리가 없어요.
자 일단 들어왔습니다. 두 개.
그래도 이거는
자, 이거
자,
셔틀
리버,
셔틀
파이팅!
셔틀 셔틀
셔틀!
셔틀
제발.
도전에서 지지.
Welcome back to the KSL. We're going to continue on with our matches here. Again, a lot of mismatches so far. Definitely one player better than the other.
You could say that.
And we're going to be hopping into that shortly here. I don't know. That last game was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I was hoping to see more of what Oz was going to do.
Especially because
Actually,
we haven't seen him for so long in StarCraft 2. Like, just, he kind of
I
disappeared.
think we're actually
many,
going to
many
game
years.
2, though, if I understand correctly.
Did we do 2 games? We did the Ling Rush and then we did the
Oh,
Hydra
no, I'm
Rush.
sorry. We did do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It was so short, I
Yeah.
like forgot.
The Ling Rush game
Sorry.
was like instant GG. So.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll be hopping into another match shortly here.
Mm.
Do tell your friends to join us. It's good to be back here doing KSL again.
Yeah.
And I don't know. As we get further and further along in the day, the game should get better and better.
Yeah,
But
I
for
mean, once you
now-
get further in the bracket, the riffraff gets eliminated.
It's funny because the first match we cast was actually the best.
The best, yeah.
I was getting super hyped, and then I mean, it's also look. I think it's also good to see why some things don't work.
Yeah.
Like that last build, that also happens to stop a 2-hatch Hydra drop. The good builds you see pros do, the reason why they're doing them in a certain way and they're so fine-tuned is because they can usually stop most everything.
Yeah.
Or if you see something, you have to follow a different
It's like,
course.
there's like
but
a
there's an answer.
statistics. Like when you look at it, you're like, what is this statistically the most likely? And if it's
Yeah.
not that, what is this like good against for everything, right?
Right.
So
Okay, we're going to go into our next game now. Let me check here. See who is who here. Give me 1 sec.
Sure.
Jake, you want to tell them where they're spawned and stuff while I do this?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm having trouble reading this name. Wiko Dusty in the bottom right, and No Manners BJ in the top left.
All right, so No Manners is actually Sparky's ace.
It's PvP, by the way.
Nice. And then, oh, excuse me. Let's go Dusty. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, no, yeah, that is him. Okay, excuse me. So that's ace. And then let me see here for, and then Dusty here is a, at least an unknown as far as what we're being told here. So we've got a PvP on
Yeah.
Overwatch. This is a good day for me. I'm a Protoss player. I'm getting all my Protoss casts in easy mode. So PvP on this map, you want to watch out because some people do proxies. There's a lot of really awesome lame proxies. You can make a make your gateways in their main. You can even do a Manor Pylon into gateways in their main. There's a lot of really strong stuff like that here. So we want to watch out for that, but they're not going to do it this time around. One important feature that should be noted on this map is the small bridge outside of the natural. It's very hard to move Dragoons through ramps and bridges. So a lot of times people try to center fights or defense around those types of areas.
Yeah. I mean, speaking on the proxy gate stuff, because this map is so good for proxy gates, that's also a reason why it's bad for proxy gates. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah. I mean, if you come out and just look for the proxy gate, you can then just make your own double gate in your main and focus in on stopping it. And there is a bit of a defender's advantage. You know, you do have your own workers to help you fight.
Shield batteries seem
Shield
really
batteries
strong.
are completely necessary. Now, this time around, they're both going into gas tech. And we do occasionally see Manor Pylons. This map was constructed so that Manor Pylon is quite good. So some of the ideas behind this map being made were to encourage fighting early on PvP.
That's good.
And so it's pretty typical nowadays in the current meta to get one Zealot out right away and then go into the Dragoons. But some players will still skip that Zealot. Zealot's very handy, though, in micro fights. So we see in this case, Ace is sending his Zealot across the map. Dusty, for now, is just using his to try to defend.
Yeah, just in case of a Manor Pylon, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's more common than uncommon if you both go one gate to be passive.
I think he almost tried there.
We used to have some players rush across the map and and that's what we're seeing Ace do here. He's coming in.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. The Manor Pylon started. Now Dragoon's gonna be popping out any moment now.
Oh, he's getting some hits off on the Zealot. The Zealot's actually attacking his Nexus right now.
Oh my God! Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, so he's gotten 2 kills here.
Yeah, I mean this has been big damage already.
Yeah. All right, pretty good control here from Dusty for now. This is not the most common way to play in one base versus one base, one gate versus one gate,
right.
PvP here. But the idea is that this pylon is such a headache.
I mean, he's also just messing with
Dusty.
the mining, and like he did kill 2 probes too.
Yeah, and if he wants to chase him, okay, and this is great.
Yeah, this is good. Gonna follow it
This
up.
is actually exactly what I used to do a long time ago.
Well, then you are the
I guess I'm
expert
as
on
good
this.
as Ace. So the Zealot, because he has to protect probes, he has to chase the Zealot.
Right.
And that means that the pylon is just there for such a ridiculously long period of time.
Yeah, you can finally focus on it. but it's already been there for so long.
Yeah, and by the way, he interrupted gas when he attacked in here, so the gas got slowed down, so I don't see a robo yet.
He's also just thrown off the build. I mean, especially going into DTs off the back of this.
Yeah.
That's going to be really, really hard to deal with if you're thrown off a build. I mean, it's still no robo. Right, there it is. I mean, he might be able to do it still. He might be able to get an observer out in time, but this is all like going according to plan for Ace.
Now, Ace doesn't have a lot at home. That's one of the flimsy components of this type of rush with this build.
Especially if you're going into DTs off of it.
Yeah, is because the DTs don't come out. You can't really use them to help fight. High ground, having one Dragoon less is still, it can be manageable.
Yeah, it all comes down to pathing.
By the way, when he sees the lack of, oh, he actually had a third Dragoon come out.
Yeah, he'll be
Because
fine.
the DT is going to start right now then.
There's the DT.
Yeah,
Is he
he's
gonna have an observatory in time? He might. If he
he
starts it-
will. The question will be, does he keep the observer there? You know, there's this whole problem where it's like,
You want to scout or not?
yeah,
Right.
because it's like you can stay back. There's also this whole funny mini game where it's like, what a lot of times players try to do is they try to like have the observer come up towards their natural, and then they try to have the observer move through where the DT would be beelining
In the
to.
middle, yeah.
But then like you have players who are really smart who will like run around the observer scouting path. And also when you get an observer out, you're also a lot of times you're trying to get a reaver out or a shuttle out as well. So
Right.
you know, there is of course a version where you're making more gates and just getting observers. But let's see where the observer is and where it goes.
The DT actually might be a little too fast. 'Cause the observer isn't even out yet, but it's about to engage.
If he's watching the
Yeah,
army,
he
yeah,
sees it.
he'll see this is coming. He'll try to block this area off. The DT's going to get in here, and the observer's going to be out a moment or two after the DT gets a kill off or so.
Yeah. He's gonna get a couple kills, and he's gonna disrupt the mineral line.
Okay,
There's a
so
couple
this is not enough
to make it
damage
total Earth.
to make it okay, but there's a follow-up plan here for the DT player. Basically, he knows that unless the observer can catch up to him, and remember DTs are actually faster than observers.
Right.
Observers are ridiculously slow and hard to keep up with. So he's waiting for any type of push out, and if he sees every push out, he'll run the DT back into the main.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really move out into a person who goes DTs with all these cannons and stuff. So you're kind of in the defender's role for a while, and also they have a really fast Templar archives, so they can go into Storm and be even more defensive while they're taking another base or whatever
Right.
they want to do.
And this is sort of a up in the air thing about who's really better now, because for the defending player right now, he had to spend some money on cannons, but he'll have his Psystorm up first. And Psystorm going into the late game is the most important ability.
Right.
Psystorm is devastating against Dragoons and clumps of Zealots.
Also on this map, like taking your third, do you attack down a ramp into the third base?
I'm sorry, what?
Like, if you take the third base as ace, is the other Protoss going to have to attack down a ramp into Storm or something like that? Is that how the map's structured? If you attack on the right side?
Well, they would have to be attacking up a hill.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
So it's just hard, you know.
Oh, we'll have to see how he plays it out, but
I mean, basically, when you do this build as ace, you don't have any. You're not interested in your Robotech right away. You'll get that much later on. You know, Dusty survives the rush because of his Robotech, but then his Psystorm tech is later. Now, it's not necessarily true that one is better than the other. You have different schools of thought, because we've seen various builds where players try to go into cannons, into Psystorm really quickly, and players who want to go for, I guess, what's slightly more common, which is Dragoon Reaver. They both have pros and cons.
yeah. So we have a robotics facility on the way. I bet this is probably going to be for a shuttle, right? He goes Storm drops or something like that?
Well, he also just needs observers.
Oh, true.
Observers are just necessary because you will have games where sometimes the player who went Robo rushes